Welcome everyone to Comics from the Multiverse episode 283. I am Peter and joining me as always is Matt.
Hey, what's up?
And also here, the one-armed man, Connor.
2 weeks in a row. What is this?
That's me. He was the one-armed man.
I was going for more of a Twin Peaks vibe, but
I felt like I was a companion to the ten-eyed man.
No,
ten-eyed man. Okay,
you're not that cool.
Oh, damn. That's fair. He is pretty cool.
By cool, I mean terrifying.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, Connor's kind of terrifying, but just in a less like creepy way. It's more just like
that's just a primordial fear of gingers that you have, though.
It's called unsettling, and some would argue that's worse.
Anyway, this is the DC Comics podcast. We get together, we talk about this week's DC Comics that we read. Coming up on this week's show, we have Batman 118, Superman Son of Kal-El 2021 Annual, Dark Knights of Steel issue 2, The Swamp Thing issue 10, Green Lantern issue 9, Arkham City, The Order of the World issue 3, World of Krypton issue 1, One Star Squadron issue 1, and a couple of Patreon books. We got Animal Man issue 14, and Connor's catching up with Harley Quinn issue 9. So that is the books, but we do have some news this week actually. So a few interesting things to talk about, and yeah, it's it's December. We're in the festive season. We're gonna tree up to make it feel festive on camera. Not really for this show specifically, admittedly, but for other shows which have Christmas episodes.
We have the fun of scheduling around Christmas very soon. Oh
yeah, I've pre-warned Matt. We were thinking about it. I mean, admittedly, when we were talking about it, we weren't considering you into the equation.
Yeah, I was going to say,
we assumed,
I was not part of these discussions.
Well, we assumed you were going to be busy, but then you broke your arm when you fell over when a pleasant dog tried to come up and greet you like a friendly animal that it is. Anyway, so yes, welcome to Comics From The Multiverse, everyone. It's always a adequate time.
Yeah, maybe.
I love how you said adequate.
Yeah,
I guarantee it.
I was going for like, I don't know,
self-deprecating,
but with a sort of tinge of like British cynicism, I guess was the mood I was going for there. But yes, welcome. So we have some news to talk about, but we will start with everyone's favorite segment. Everyone loves it.
It's Batman.
The ComiXology Top 10 is starting off the show, and I'm going to give Matt a guess here. Matt, what do you think number one is?
Batman.
You're right, it's Batman!
Oh, dang, how did I guess that?
Yeah, so good. How did you not get that, Connor? So, Batman 118 is number one.
I'm willing to make a guess at number two.
Well, 1 second. I just want to mention with Batman is that, I mean, it usually gets number one anyway. I imagine the numbers are maybe bumped a little bit just because it's the start of a new run and people may have wanted to check it out.
I always wonder how much that translates to ComiXology. Like, genuinely, because I have no idea. Like, if you're going into a comic shop, you probably have that sort of awareness, but I imagine there are a lot more people on ComiXology who don't follow things quite as closely and just buy Batman.
Maybe, I don't know. It's the sort of thing where I imagine there's a lot of people who transition from physical books who do follow it as much as they used to, and they just, they'll hop on.
There are, but also since Amazon integrated ComiXology with Amazon's own, they're like buying it on their digital copies, I imagine it's hit a significantly wider audience than just comic fans.
Yeah, very possibly. So. Yeah, that's number one. Would you like to guess number two then, since you were so hyped about it?
Yeah, I think it's the new Devil's Reign. Is that it? The Daredevil crossover event?
No.
Is it Star Wars?
No.
Is it more Batman?
No.
It's got to be an X book, but I'm looking at which one.
It is an X book. It is Inferno issue 3 is number 2. So Cara was so confident, and then it was just not even something on his radar.
I really thought it might be the Daredevil crossover because it's it's like a little event mini. Those usually sell pretty well.
Well, do you want to guess number 3 then, Connor?
Was it Devil's Reign?
No. Number 3 is Batman 89.
I don't even see that on here.
I see Devil's Reign. I know where it is.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
I was going to guess Devil's Reign everyone now until I get it.
Yes, would you like to guess number 4?
Is it Devil's Reign?
It's Spider-Man 80 Point Beyond, because they're doing that tie-in thing.
80 point beyond.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
like the
EY.
tie-in issue, so it's not issue 80. It's like issue 80.1 for the
Okay, so-
tie-in.
Is that part of the weekly book, or is that part of it? Is that extra? Like, I don't even know.
I think it's additional. I think it's additional to the. Then again, I don't see another Spider-Man issue here, so maybe it is the only thing that's this week. So I don't know.
God damn it, Marvel.
Do you want to guess what number 5 is?
Devil's Reign.
It's Hellions!
Star Wars. Oh.
Issue 18. Do you want to guess what number 6 is, Connor?
Is it Devil's Reign?
It's Star Wars! Issue 19! He was so confident it was issue number 2 as well.
Do you know what? Those things usually sell well, but...
Oh, there you go. Alright, do you want to guess what number 7 is?
Is it Devil's Reign?
It's Dark Knights of Steel! No, I'm kidding. It is Devil's Reign. Devil's Reign is number 7. Dark Knights of Steel issue 2 is number 8, though, to say. Superman Son of Kal-El is number 9. And number 10 is actually Daredevil Volume 5, which is not on sale. It's just... I guess it's just the
That's
new
quite
trade.
impressive, actually.
Yeah.
Probably the lead-in to Devil's Reign.
I mean, it'll be the most recent trade that will have just released. I don't know how directly that leads in. 'Cause I'm a few months behind.
It's
But...
Volume 5, issues 21 to 25, so I don't know what they're on.
that's significantly behind. I think Daredevils are in the they're in the early 30s now.
I need to get caught up on that book because it's been a
It's
while.
so good.
Yeah, I need
Since
to
I've
catch
read
up as
Daredevil.
well. This is not a new release, by the way. I just checked the release date on it. It came out in February, so I don't know. Maybe it was on sale and it's went back up in price, but right now it's full price.
I think there was a Daredevil sale earlier in the week.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is.
All the Charlie Cox talk this week or last week. I was like, it's been a while since I've read Daredevil. I love that character. So
The whole Zdarsky run has been pretty fantastic.
Yeah,
It's in my top 5 Marvel books.
Yeah, I read the first 3 trades worth and really, really enjoyed what I'd read so far. So
need to get this.
Yeah, it's still great.
Yeah, it just afterwards, Suicide Squad's number 12, and then 14 Swamp Thing, 15's Green Lantern, One Star Squadron is up next. So
That's surprisingly high for that sort of book. I didn't expect a lot of sales for that sort of book.
No, but
it was interesting that that's so high, for that type of book, and yet World of Krypton, which I would argue has a similar cred because based on the writer appeal and so on, but that's not on page 1 at all. So
I guess One Star Squadron, that was Mark Russell, right?
yeah,
Because he has his own kind of audience at this point.
Yeah.
I think that maybe
that's
Venditti is still like, don't get me wrong, has fans, but it's more just he does superhero books for the most part.
he's a workman, right?
Whereas Russell has he has a very specific brand that I assume it brings its own niche.
Yeah, with Russell, there's going to be some kind of political commentary thrown in there, and then you add Lieber, and it's going to be cartoony while at it, like not cartoony in like the zany type way, but just
Matt,
it feels.
are you a second banana?
Yes, definitely, I'm the second banana.
Yeah, that's okay. So, sometimes you need. The second
Also,
banana.
are you gonna finish those fries or not? So, but
You
yeah,
can tell
no.
Pete didn't read the book.
Yeah.
I'm no sell on it because I don't care.
that's fine.
But
But yeah, so and then with Venditti, he's kind of a workman type to where I don't know if his name exactly sells, because I mean, look at Hawkman. We loved Hawkman, but that wasn't usually in the top.
I was nowhere near, if I recall.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Doomsday Clock in page 2 because the Doomsday Clock sale on apparently.
I think it's a Doomsday Clock and Watchmen sales. It's probably got all the before Watchmen stuff in there as well, I assume.
Yeah. I mean, that's not ranking as highly, but yeah, I'm sure it's.
I'm assuming it's in the sale.
Yeah.
I haven't actually looked.
So World of Krypton is near the end of page 2, behind a lot of sales stuff. And a new Buffy book started actually called The Last Vampire Slayer. Interesting.
I saw that at the shop, and I thought of you, Pete.
Thank you,
Is
Matt.
that a mini or a one shot or an omnibus? Well, I don't actually know. I know
This
it's
is a mini.
I would assume it's a mini, but I could
Yeah.
be wrong.
I could have sworn that I saw like one of on the cover, but I'm not sure.
It just says number 1 in the cover, but at least on
Okay.
ComiXology. But I don't know if
Gotcha.
I went and picked up my comics this week. I will have got it if it is there, because I just get all the Buffy books kind of added in my pull automatically. I just haven't looked through my pile from this week yet, except I pulled out the DC books that I needed.
Yeah.
So maybe I've already got it, or maybe it was delayed in the UK. A lot of comics are right now.
Yeah, very possibly. So no, Interesting. But there you go. ComiXology top 10. Everyone enjoys it. Everyone loves it. We do have some news this week, though. I'll start us off in some happy news. Before we get to, I feel like we have to start with this because it's almost something that we've been hoping for about 3 years at this point. Our Lord and Savior, our patron saint, Tom Taylor, has
don't go that far to call him Lord and Savior. That's putting a lot of pressure on the man. The patron saint, that's right about his level.
Okay. Well, DC has finally put a ring on his finger because he signed an exclusive contract this week, or at least they announced that he did it this week. I mean, they may have done it, months ago, but
these things usually are done in advance of the announcement.
Yes, but yes, so he is DC exclusive. Obviously, he's still got that mini that's coming out of Marvel, which will finish, obviously, but going forward.
Usually these things still allow for creator-owned works, so he'll still have his other books at other publishers, just not. It's usually just not Marvel. It's basically the thing. Yeah,
which is why I'm pointing out that many that he's doing is obviously still going to have its. He's probably already finished them, but they're still going to come out, and that'll be them. And then
the one that's definitely not deceased.
Yes. So yeah. Obviously, there's not a lot to say here, except, yay. I mean, he already feels like he has like 3 DC books at any given time right now anyway, so this just confirms that it's going to continue.
I'm sure he said there was more announcements to come in terms of DC books, which is not surprising if he's got an exclusive contract.
I mean, it feels like they're happy with the performance of Nightwing, and possibly that means that, when he's done with Nightwing, or even alongside Nightwing, he's going to get another big, ongoing.
I mean, Nightwing has been selling very well. Like, whenever we do these top lists, it's consistently higher than I expect from a Nightwing book.
Yeah, and it's worth mentioning, in the ads for the trade that are in the back of the books, not this week, but a few weeks ago, there was ads for the first trade. And how much stock you can put in them saying this is a fair question to have, but it does say the best-selling series coming to. I
mean, all the issues have got like multiple printings.
Yeah, so. Maybe this is also, I mean, removing Tom Taylor from the equation, although he's a big part of why it's so good. Maybe this is just like, hey, you make a good Dick Grayson book and people will want it. Shocking. Yes. Shocking, I know.
It's almost like people didn't enjoy Rick Grayson.
Well, and I almost feel like having a new publisher also helps that. Someone that actually appreciates the character.
I mean, this is maybe a bit harsh, Matt, but I'm starting to get this vibe that Didio was like the Vince Russo of comics.
Oh my god, did you see the thing from Grant Morrison's interview this week?
No.
What's this?
So the reason that Superman and the Authority exists, that book, obviously it was, I know it only just came out and they ended up tying it into what's going on in the world stuff, but originally it was going to be a 5G book. It exists, and because this was after Morrison had seemingly retired from superhero comics, they made that statement about they were kind of done. Didio was talking about the plans with 5G Superman to Morrison, and was saying that they were going to go lean into the right-wing authoritarian style old man Superman, and Morrison was like, no, how dare you? And went, I will write the book to save Superman from Didio.
Thank you, Grant. If you're listening, doing your magic. Oh my god, are you kidding?
I'm going to find the exact quote, but this is from an interview that Morrison did. I don't know when he did the interview or when they did the interview, but the interview only came out this week, I think. Yeah, Superman would be a super right-wing authoritarian with his new team, the Authority, to take over, and Morrison was horrified and volunteered as tribute to ensure it didn't happen.
Tribute. That's fantastic.
I just said sigh. I don't want to see Superman's not a right-wing authoritarian. That's not how you do it. If you would let me do a Superman version that's like a dad, I said, please don't make him a right-wing tyrant guy. That's just not Superman. So I got tricked into doing the book again, because if I didn't, they'd have made Superman a tyrant.
Well, every time something new comes out about the plans for 5G, we seem to be happy that it didn't happen.
Yes. Yeah. So thank you, Morrison.
Who does that benefit?
I know we didn't all love that Superman and the Authority book, because it was just, all right, sure.
It was whatever.
It's fine, but
I mean, honestly,
I like it infinitely more now that I know it was what we could have had instead.
Honestly, though, like hearing this, it kind of makes sense why it's not Grant Morrison's best work. It was kind of just, I'm going to phone this in because if I don't do something, it's going to. So
another quote. He said, "They said I really like that book. I didn't want to do it, but once I'd done it, I was really glad it was the last thing I was doing with DC."
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
This interview is on YouTube.
I mean, I wasn't super into it, but obviously I align with Morrison here on the general reason for doing it. So good job.
Yeah.
Who does that benefit? Like, why? Who would have bought that book?
Lots of people,
like, does
probably, because it has
Didio
Superman on.
Does Didio just hate Superman?
I think Didio hates superheroes.
I don't get it. Like, between the New 52 stuff, right, that they had to come in and fix at a certain point, you know, when Greg Pak took over Action and it kind of started to right itself. But geez, man, I
swear,
don't get it.
If he had a few more years, we'd have had like Cassie Sandsmark on a pole match or something. Like, seriously, he's Vince Russo in comic form.
And I was gonna say, when you said he was Vince Russo, I was gonna go, let's not go that far.
But then you heard this Grant Morrison story.
Yeah, and it's just like, what? I want to know who at Warner Brothers is also who thought that was a good idea.
They don't care. That Didio's job was to do what he thought would sell. So as long as he okayed it, I don't think anyone at Warner would stop him.
Well, I mean, I think Grant Morrison was like, so if I take this job, you're telling me I can dodge bullets, and then it turned out he didn't have to, or sorry, they didn't have to. So, well, like here we are.
And who's in charge now? Like, who took over for? I know it's just Jim Lee as co-publisher, but
it's the two ladies who took over, right?
Yeah, they came from the.
I can't remember the names.
They came from the kids.
That's the thing. The fact that I don't know the names off the top of my head is a good sign, because it means there's not a bunch of bullshit news stories for us to complain about them, which is why we don't know their names.
Right, and then on top of it, it seems like they're just doing whatever Didio wouldn't do. Right? Look at Taylor's Nightwing. Look at his Superman, Son of Kal-El. Like, John is very much the opposite of a right-wing authoritarian Superman. You know,
it was very much what did you do? And then do the opposite.
Exactly. So,
Dan Dildo, you son of a bitch.
Yeah.
All right. More news though. This next one's sad. I'm glad we got a lot of silly jokes out of that, because this one's not.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about this one.
Marie Javins is her name.
That's right.
There you go. So she took over. She took the job solely then after the first bit.
She is the current editor-in-chief.
All right, because it was two temporarily, and it became her. Yeah. All right. So this is sad news. Next, George Perez revealed this week that he has been told he has about 6 months to live. He has pancreatic cancer, and there's not really much to say here, except there's just been an outpouring of well wishes and people on Twitter, social media sharing their favorite Perez stories, moments, interactions with him, stuff like that. So. Yeah, I mean, what's to say? Someone who shaped certainly Wonder Woman, if not, that's the first thing I think of.
Teen Titans.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He created Starfire, right? Like him and Wolfman. So
he wouldn't know, because he wouldn't recognize
right.
Anyway.
Well, I mean, the concept of Nightwing, I think, is Wolfman and Perez. Him going off on his own.
And I mean, how important is Nightwing to us as a trio? Like,
right. So like, there's just that. I mean, and then you hear he wasn't late on the JLA Avengers. He did every single page, every single character, and delivered it on time. And you hear that and you're like, that is a task of Hercules, right? That's like one of the labors for him to nail that. So, because like every character that had been associated with either team was included at one point in that book. So it's just one of those. I remember he hated the character Vibe so much that in the big spread, like the big spread of when all the heroes are together, he put Vibe in the crease, so no one would have to really see him. And you just hear stuff like that, and you're just like, man.
If you're a real big Vibe fan of him, you can be like, oh look, Vibe front and center, like right in the middle where you can't.
I like the idea that he's
like, no, you will never see this man.
I like the idea that he's measured the comic and figured out where the staple's going to be, just to make sure the staple's right where his face is.
That is a master of his craft right there. So, and he, from what I had read, he was in declining health on top of, this announcement. Like he had, his diabetes was real bad. He was down to one eye. which made it hard for him to even do stuff he enjoyed anymore, you know. And it's just, this is just the cherry on the shit sundae. So yeah, it's a bummer.
Yeah. So I had to bring it up. He's obviously just one of the legendary names of DC, and is so influential, touched a lot of characters. So yeah. So just some regular news business, as it were, for a couple other things. Naomi season 2 is finally sort of on the books. It's coming starting in March. With Bendis back, and it's kind of weird that I'm excited for this because I've been kind of down on everything Bendis has done recently, but I did really like Naomi season 1, so
well, I hope you go back and read all the other Bendis stuff for Naomi in, because otherwise you're going to feel like you're probably missing a lot back on season 2.
I think you'll be okay. I think you'll be okay.
Life will find a way. It's all right. Yeah. So very cool. So that is that, and then the other thing is that we kind of knew about this anyway from it was the end of one of the books last week. But Shadow War, this crossover that's happening with Batman, Robin, and Deathstroke Inc. They've officially put out some sort of a press release here, and they've announced that there's going to be an Alpha issue 1 to kick it off. So that's coming right at the end of March 29th, which I'm going to assume is a 5th week, just given that number. So maybe they'll have like a conclusion issue as well, much like
the Omega.
It'll have an Omega issue as well.
Yeah. So. Neat, the covers there if you want to go check it out on the news articles. There's a few covers there for the various issues of the other books as well in their March issues. So yeah, obviously Williamson's writing all 3 of those books. So, and
also the event issues itself, like the Alpha issue.
Oh, of course, yeah. It'd be weird if he wasn't. Like
Bogdanovich is doing the art on the Alpha issue.
It's nice it's only one artist then, just because you know.
And I just checked the calendar, and the 29th is indeed a 5th week.
Yeah.
Which I feel, now that it's on Tuesdays, for whatever reason, I feel like it's going to happen more. Just, it feels like there's more Tuesdays.
It'll happen the exact same amount.
I
don't like thinking about numbers, guys.
It's just sometimes not going to be the same month as there are 5 Wednesdays.
Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah, it just swapped some of the months that would have been a 5th week versus before, but that's it.
Yeah, the March issues of Robin and Deathstroke Inc. are going to be like preludes. No mention of Batman. I assume Batman's still a normal issue that month, and then
right.
Yeah, it'll tie in afterwards.
April's issues will be the actual crossover, and I don't actually know how long it runs for. Don't know if they said how many issues.
I don't think that. I mean, it is quite a long article, admittedly, but I don't see any.
It does say at the bottom. Continue April's Batman 112, Deathstroke Inc. 8, Robin 13 concludes in May with Batman 123, Shadow Warzone issue 1, Deathstroke Inc. 9, Robin 14, and then Shadow War Omega.
So it's not that long then. It's only a couple of months, really. March to May.
Alpha, Omega, and an issue 1 in the middle of those as extra issues on top of the 3 books.
Yeah. It's not actually that many issues of each of the ongoing books, so it's only 2 of Batman, 3 of Deathstroke Inc., and 3 of Robin? Yeah. Not that bad, really, all things considered.
No.
If the story's good, I won't really care that much. I'll just be into it.
It means, given that they've got these extra issues, it'll probably be every week we'll have an issue for those months.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, so cool. There you go. That's all I had. I don't know if you found anything else, if there was anything I missed.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, okay. Well, there you go. That's the news for the week then. So obviously the one big bit of sad news, but hey, Tom Taylor's exclusive. That's good. That's
very good.
So, excellent. All right. Well, let's get into the books then, shall we? Batman issue 118. This is Joshua Williamson writing with Jorge Molina on the art, and this is
and Mikkel Janin.
It's not on the cover, but I'll tell you what.
I know it's not on the cover, but it's in the credits page.
So interesting thing about this is that it's the same page count as normal, but there's no backup. It's actually just at least for this first issue, they've decided to give it the full page count for the main story.
Flash is doing this as well, right?
Flash has been doing it, yeah.
Yeah. That's the other one that springs to mind has been oversized.
And Green Lantern's kind of doing it, although it's always split in two between two stories.
Yeah, that's why I wasn't really counting that, because it's not that one's. I think they're equal sized stories, right? So it's not like one's a backup.
I wish they weren't equal sized. Okay, that much.
Spoilers.
So But no, I don't know if this is going to be a consistent thing, if it's just for this first part, just to, so there was enough room to like do everything he wanted to do in his first issue. It's very possible. I think the first thing I'll say about this, before we talk about any of the stuff that it introduces or anything like that, is that this is a very smooth transition from the previous writer. This references so much of what's just happened that you definitely feel that Williamson is respecting the story that was just told and not just wanting to sweep it under the rug before he does his own thing.
There's always two kinds of runs in comics. Well, when they start a run, there's always the kind that just comes in, it's like, right, this is the new status quo, this is what we're doing, and, you know, forget everything that came before. Or there's the kind that's very much, this is a direct continuation. And
and this
if you didn't know it was a different writer, could like just feel like more of the same.
And it does feel like a different writer, and I think because we're all used to
different vibe.
We're used to we're used to these different writers. We know what Williamson's like. We know what Tynan's like, but it does reference like so many things that were just happening. It references what's going on now with Arkham Tower. It references everyone's partying in the city because they've all survived this fear state. Like, that's why they're all happy. Yeah, so it follows straight on.
It feels like a Gotham flagship book, right? Like he's referencing all the stuff that's been going on in Gotham, because there's even stuff in there that references tech, right, with the vial stuff. And
I think it's interesting to me that we take so much time in Gotham to kind of set up. This is where Gotham is right now. By the end, it's like we're kind of moving out of Gotham.
Now I have to leave Gotham.
I think that makes sense given that Detective is. I mean, Matt just called this the flagship Gotham book. I think for the next couple of months, Detective's going to be the flagship Gotham book.
Well, yeah, I said it was. I said it felt like this felt like this is the Batman, stuff that's been going on. This, so it almost sets it in a era, if you will. Like this is right when it's going on, and I like that.
It uses it's not just like plot points that it references. It also just uses things that the previous run was using too. The fact that he's still calling Oracle, and using that as a part of the plot device that he's going to be using going forward.
And this is the argument I use for continuity. And I know sometimes continuity gets a little bit hectic, and you shouldn't have to read 14 books to understand what's going on in one. But the fact here that there is a continuity across the Bat books, and Williamson plays into that. He doesn't just decide he's going to do his own thing. I appreciate that.
This is very much an issue that is aware that it's the start of a run, and that there's a lot of exposition essentially for people like us who've been reading everything. We're like, this is all nice. This is what's just happened. But to anyone who's jumping on to Batman books right now and hasn't been reading any of them for the last 6 months, a year, whatever, this is essential information as to setting the scene of where things are right now.
It's little things though, like someone jokes, "Oh, I thought I saw Nakano crack a smile," and it's like that little line right there is for us. It's for the people who've been reading this and get why that's a funny line, because Nakano has been this really determined mayor.
I actually think it works for both, because I think that's really important for people who haven't been reading the books as well. That goes, okay, Mayor Nakano, so it's giving you that name, and it goes, even saw them smile, which tells you, okay, they don't usually. So it's immediately telling you what sort of person they are if you have no knowledge at all.
It does do that, but I'm not expecting the Nakano to feature in this book that much, if at all, for the foreseeable future. I think that's mainly there is just, again, another kind of like passing the torch kind of like moment of like, we're acknowledging what the status quo in Gotham is, and it's still going to be going on during Detective, and it's still kind of adhering to like the rest of the Bat family books right now, and everything they've set up and everything they're still doing, which is really nice, because I think there was a concern when they announced this, and it was like, oh, Williamson's coming in, he's doing a new villain, and he's going to do something with Batman, that it was going to be like, oh, he's completely like absconding from the rest of the Bat books and just doing his own little thing in the corner somewhere.
But I like too though that it feels like new, like it feels fresh while referencing what we've gone through.
Do you know what it is as well, I think? And this could sound like a negative, but I don't mean it that way. It's an advert to go and read Detective. Like if you like all this Gotham stuff that you're seeing, you're picking this up, it's a new run, and you're hearing all this stuff, and you like this setting. It's kind of an advert to, hey, go check out Detective if you want more of this stuff.
I believe that's called synergy, right? Like
it is,
yeah. That's a very Disney concept, and I mean that in the, hey, you liked the theme park ride? Here's a movie, or here's a TV show, or
and I think what's notable though is that this first half where he's in Gotham and all this like New Year's style partying is going on. It does actually serve a purpose in the story as well, in the sense that there's a lot of jokes here from Oracle and other characters that, oh, maybe you should just like take the night off and enjoy the fact that everyone's in a good mood and everyone's happy and things are in a good place. That's kind of intentional, because then when it hits you with this kind of, you know, the story is going to have to go and investigate later on, which is very, you know, it's got like a dark vibe to it. It's like, you know, someone's
grim.
There's a murder and like maybe someone in the like Team Batman Inc. is basically all just admitted they've done it, but obviously he suspects there's more to it than that. But you've got all this setup, and I think the contrast of tone, and even the fact that the first half of this book is so colorful, and I love that about the art, is that it's so colorful with all the fireworks going off and all the city lights and the neon lights and all that stuff. And then when you get to the stuff where he's going to investigate the crime scene in Europe or wherever it is, it's like, oh no, now it's just all these natural daylights and like shadows and darkness, and it's just like all of the colors.
Not Gotham.
Yeah, the colors just all gone. We're in a different world, and I think that's really interesting to do that with it. So that's really cool. Yeah, so like I said, the first half of the book, there's a couple of criminals that are going to break in somewhere, and Batman shows up, and I actually really like the build up to this, where one's like convinced he sees Batman, and the other one's like, nah, it's just a gargoyle, it's just Gotham, like it's nothing. And it builds up to this.
I do love what he says too. He's like, you know, the gargoyles in Gotham, that's how it got its name. Just calm down. You know,
yeah, but it builds up to this full page spread of Batman with the fireworks behind him, and it's like it is an abnormally colorful Batman standing on a rooftop page.
Yep. Yeah, it works really well though.
Yeah, no, it does. It's really nice, and there's some good humor here, because the two crooks, when they realize Batman's actually there, just run to the nearest cops and beg to be arrested.
Arrest me. All right, if you insist.
Oh, like, yeah, sure, Batman.
We're gonna rob the pawn shop.
Yeah, so. Just really stuff. It does reference some of the characters that, you know, Ghostmaker and Clown Hunter are off doing training and stuff. But and we even get like a reason why like we're going to get them to draw like all of the Bat Rogues gallery without having a convoluted plot of why they're all actually there. It's no. There's a costume party, so we get a bunch of Jokers and Riddlers and Two Faces and whatever.
Harleys and Freezes and Ivies and Fireflies.
Yeah. Although the Firefly's real though, right? Like that was actual Firefly.
Well, that one was. Yeah. I mean, there might be more in there as well.
True,
There's a few Catwomans and
I did love that, because it does seem like a shitty billionaire club thing to do. It's like, hey, you know the thing that people in this city are terrified of and have caused them untold amounts of damage? Let's all dress up like them.
Do you know what it felt like? Maybe it was too early, but it felt like a very specific reaction to me to Chrissy Teigen doing the Squid Game pie.
I did not know about that.
Completely missing the point of what that show was, with, you know, all the rich people having the party and doing that. Like, it kind of felt like almost like a reference to that.
Firefly is real though, so he's at the party. He's got some cronies. He's got a guy who's helping him who's dressed as Mr. Freeze, but it's clearly not actually Mr. Freeze. He's some dude with a beard. He's a bit chubbier as well, but he looks it.
Yeah, he's really squeezing that suit. Say that from a guy who, you know, I'm not the smallest guy in the world, so.
Yeah, you know. So we have Batman jumps in with some sort of killer croc suit on.
So for a hot second, Pete, I got worked thinking that Killer Croc's at this party, decides to help, and I was like, oh, good, we're getting a Killer Croc. And, you know,
I think it's feasible given what just happened with Catwoman. It wasn't like a massive stretch.
They're kind of, they could have been playing with it.
So I went to Twitter and I was like, oh, I like that they're adding Killer Croc to the Clayface, Poison Ivy, former rogues, anti-hero. And then it's just Batman. I was like, of course, dummy.
2 pages later.
Everyone on Twitter thought you were such a fool.
Yep.
So I really like that panel actually where he punches the I mean, it's not actually the Riddler, but like he punches the Riddler that's there
the guy.
in the face.
And I like how he goes, those aren't Croc's moves. Who are you really? Yeah. And then it just the reveal, the suit just, you know, melts away.
Yeah, it gets burned off by Firefly. Yeah.
Cool.
I love the idea that this Joker, who's not obviously again not the real Joker, but he tries to like use like 2 knives. He dual wields some knives and tries to like stab Batman, which is like I'm not saying Joker would never do it, because I can see him doing it with like a certain sense of humor, but this feels like some asshole who thinks he's got some skills with some knives. And
to be fair, it's just not that bad.
It's just Jared Leto.
He would be at some rich asshole's party. In fact, he's probably throwing the party where everyone's dressed as villains.
His party, yeah.
Yeah, and him and Joaquin Phoenix are just like staring at each other across the room all night, like just staring daggers at each other.
Yeah, you think Joaquin Phoenix is going to one of those
to piss off Jared Leto.
Yeah.
So ultimately, there's a real freeze gun though, because they mentioned one of the pages that they stole Freeze's gun. Batman grabs it though and freezes the Firefly gun, and voila! Would you look at that? Every day is saved, and all the rich assholes don't even realize that this is real. They just think this is some like a show that the host has put on for them. And fake Catwoman even tries to get flirty with them. And then a little girl dressed as Punchline asks for his autograph, and I love that he is not thrilled about this, but he does actually draw a bat symbol on the paper.
He smoke bombs out and just leaves it.
And she's so delighted.
This is also in this. This is how messed up this party is too. Punchline, isn't she on trial for stuff?
Well, I mean, this is a party dressing as villains.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, but to have your daughter dress up as Punchline is a whole level of ick. Right?
Hey, have you seen the photos of like families holding machine guns next to the Christmas tree on Twitter?
Oh, for the Christmas card
yes.
pictures.
Yeah. This is so believable to me. After that,
no. I'm not saying it's not believable. I'm saying it adds a whole level of ick.
Oh sure, yeah.
Like also, that person's a congressman.
Oh, I saw more than one. It wasn't just the one, but the first one was.
There's a trend of them now.
Yeah.
I'm sure that I don't know if the congressman started it and people jumped on, or if he saw it happening and was like,
all I know is that Ryan Higgins, comics conspiracy guy, had asked for a Photoshop of them to replace him with dildos,
and it was already there.
It was already there, and it's one of my favorite stories of the week.
Mm-hmm.
So,
oh dear. Anyway, so so yeah, basically, there's a sweet little moment here where Barbara asks, what do you usually do after like, a successful case? And there's a page just showing like various examples, like him with Gordon next to the bat symbol, him with presumably young Dick. Well, maybe
that's Damien.
That's Damien with the dog there.
So it's a very tight panel. I didn't,
I'm just going off of the cape that looks like a hood.
Yeah. No, you're right.
I was going by the dog, but yeah, that works too.
It was just like I just saw Robin and didn't think about it when I first read it, and it's just because I'm looking at the collar now. I'm like, it looks like Damien.
Yeah.
Anyway, and then it's like with Catwoman, then there's one with Superman, and then it's him playing chess with Alfred.
And then you look at this page and realize that all these people are gone right now.
Yeah.
Gordon's doing stuff in the Joker book. Damien's got his own. Mm-hmm. Catwoman's off. Superman's on Warworld, and Alfred's dead. And it takes a lot for me to feel bad for Bruce. This page made me feel really bad for Bruce. Like I was like, oh, he's for sure lonely, even though he still has like his other kids, right? These are all his coping that he just doesn't have now, And I was like, God damn,
it's not like they live at home anymore.
No, but like, I like that he's talking to Barbara, and Barbara's like, oh well, Dick's gonna bring over bagels and coffee. Come on over. But it's not that. It's it's what Bruce is used to that is just not there, and the fact that he's lonely. And something about that really resonated, and I was like, oh, I feel bad for the poor guy.
I actually really like that moment with Babs where Dick's like, hey, tell him to come over. It's literally the parents looking after the kids looking after the older parent who's on the road now. And
there's a couple of details here. Like one, I like that Dick's already got a third cup. Right, nice touch. And also the idea that he is maybe about to say yes, and he's going to like make this part of the new victory tradition. Yeah. But then it's right at this moment where the light of the blimp with the bulletin hits him. Yeah. And he's like, I'm going dark for 48 hours. And it's almost like a really funny beat, because it's like the opposite of what Oracle's asking. Like, don't go dark, come and be a part of the family. And he's like, I'm going dark for 48 hours.
Is anything more Gotham to your reign than blimps giving out the news?
Oh, it's just super.
It's Gotham.
That's proper Gotham. Love it. The fact that they're carrying big screens for billboards and ads and news bulletins is amazing. So yeah, it says Batman Inc. arrested, and says murder, and obviously that sets us into the second part of the book, which is in Badnisia.
Yeah.
Badnisia.
So it's some sort of.
This is a fake place, right? This is a made up place, right?
Yeah, this is made up.
Yeah.
We've been there before in Williams' books. This is where the Flash went when looking for the.
Oh yeah, it sounds familiar.
Speed
but
Forces.
Just...
I think Taylor went there with the Suicide Squad. So it's if I remember right, it's like their Madripoor. It's kind of like a place where, you know, you can get away with things that you normally wouldn't be. So, but yeah.
No, I mean not that the places being made up is unique for DC because DC most of DC's regular cities are made up. So
just trying to place it geographically. I know Peter mentioned maybe Europe, but like it's definitely got some Asian influence given the police
South
tape.
Asia.
Is it South Asia?
South Asia.
Okay.
See, I was going to say maybe it was like Eurasian, maybe like the architecture looks very like Turkish almost.
I mean, it could be.
To be fair, I said Europe when I wasn't looking at the page. Now that I'm looking at the page where he's actually there, I would have said Asia too.
Yeah. But I to me, it's always somewhere like around like Thailand, like that kind of area. I mean, it could be Connor, like you're saying, you're Asian on that side of the continent. But you know,
we need a DC Atlas.
Yeah, I can look up. I'm sure there's one.
No, not now. That's fine.
You guys talk. I'm gonna look.
So yeah, we're interested in your character here. Well, as far as I know, it's a new character anyway. Kea, who is a detective in Banisia, and she doesn't believe, like, she thinks there's more to the case than just because it sounds kind of fishy, like all these Batman Inc. characters just walked in and confessed to this murder after they did it, and she goes in and she thinks she's found some evidence. And it's like, why has no one looked at this? And of course, Batman, a real Batman appears. He's changed the outfit as well. He's got his oval on now as well. He didn't earlier in this year. So.
I didn't know. This is the
Batman Inc. suit.
The Batman Inc. suit, yeah. And I wonder if that was an intentional statement from, like, obviously from the creative team. It's telling us, no, we're in Batman Inc. mode. But from Batman himself, like from Bruce, was it more of a solidarity with them, maybe?
Yeah. So. Bruce examines the crime scene and she says, okay, so Batman Inc. Like they killed Abyss, right? This new character.
Yeah, so he's been terrorizing bodies now, kidnapped at least 20 people. So they came to save the day, and it went. Yeah.
Yeah, but if you look at, like, you know, when he's looking at the bullet holes and he's sort of visualizing what's happened, he's seeing like a shooter from up above that doesn't really track with like any of the Batman characters. So you know, so he's literally pointing out plot holes like in this like confession that's been given. There's more to the story.
He points out and goes, but they did do it somehow.
Yeah. So, well, at least they're saying that. Maybe there's a reason why they're.
Well, I don't know, that's Batman's conclusion, isn't it? Is because, you know, the detective's like, oh, so they're being framed, and Bruce like, no, that's the problem. They did do it.
So there's more there, though. I'm sure. Like,
yeah, he's obviously jumping to right. Okay, mind control, things like that. I'm assuming has, you know, why did they all suddenly, you know, become like this? You know, what affected them in this way?
Yeah. So. Yeah, it sets up this mystery. Sets up like, okay, we've got this going on. The big thing at the end of the issue, though, is that she brings up, oh yeah, there's a guy in like Gotham who was funding like Batman Inc., right? And he's like, yeah, Bruce Wayne, but he's no longer. And that's a good point. He doesn't have the money to fund Batman Inc. anymore. We know this. And in walks, you know, someone else.
The new sponsor.
Yes, the benefactor who's sponsoring the whole thing. And we see like the feet, we see the suit, we can tell it's someone rich. I didn't actually notice the L on the jacket the first time I read it.
Did you not?
No. I still guessed who it was, though, because it was like, well,
who else would wear the white suit?
Yeah, there's only a few people it could really be. So it was not a surprise when I turned the page and saw that bald head, and then the final dialogue is just a close-up of Batman's eyes of Luthor.
I love Bruce Wayne and Lex Luthor interactions.
That's ended up in like a weird week of like Lex Luthor returning, because you know this and Superman both have him returning.
He's been a while. Yeah, once I saw the purple and then I saw the L, I was like, oh, okay, of course. Because I mean, who else do we have that has that much money that's left in DC? It's Luthor and Ollie Queen, and Ollie's funding the Justice League, so you know.
Probably Dick Grayson.
Yeah, Dick. I mean, but he's not doing the Club of Heroes stuff, right? Like
he could have done.
But real quick about Banisia. It goes all the way back to 1940 from Flash Comics 1.
Whoa.
And also has ties to Johnny Thunder and the Thunderbolt.
Do we have a rough location?
It is. It's an island in the South China Sea, in the vicinity of Indonesia. So, yeah.
Cool.
But I like. So it's one of those places too that has, deep history with DC. So it's not just like he could have created any other place, right? Like he could have made up his own country, but Williamson opted to go with this one that exists already, which is real cool. But yeah, the Luthor twist I loved.
Yeah, there's only so many times you can add new places. Like I feel like if there's some good places you can use,
yeah,
might as well.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so no reason why not. So I like this issue quite a bit. Like I mean, obviously we went through it. I think I like how much it addresses and acknowledges the past run. I like how much it still seems to be, accepting what's going on in the other Bat books. I think the art is very good. I love the coloring in the first half. I think the art is still very solid in the second half as well, though. Like him appearing in the shadows, the crime scene stuff. The new character from the brief interaction we get with her seems likable. Like, she's like wants to investigate this when everyone else is like just wipe their hands off it because confession, nothing to see here. But she's like, she smells a mystery, and that makes her just instantly a little bit likable, I think. And then the ending with Luthor is just like interesting. It's like, okay, so he's got his mitts on Batman Inc., and how exactly is he influencing it? And is it as simple as him corrupting him enough to kill someone? I don't know. That feels a bit straightforward, but it's possible.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know where this is exactly going to go with the whole Abyss thing. I know it's a new character, and whatever, but I like that. I like that now we're in for the ride. So,
yeah. I would say this feels a bit more light, I guess, than the last run, but it's hard to say that after one issue.
That started off pretty light as well.
But like at least from this issue, it feels like, oh no, we're going to be having like a nice sort of pulpy time, like with all these various things going on.
We're doing Globetrotting Bruce again, which we haven't had in a while, so I'm excited for it to be that. There's something different at this point.
I mean, we just had Batman Detective. I mean, that was Globetrotting.
No, that was barely. It was still focused in mostly one location. It was mostly just two, London and Paris.
Yeah,
but even that was just okay. It was just this mini. It was out of continuity. This is continuity Globetrotting Bruce.
I mean, I don't really care about Globetrotting Bruce, to be honest, but like that's not a problem for me having it there in this case, like because I enjoyed this issue well enough. I kind of also appreciate that the Batman Inc. inclusion isn't just like he's running Batman Inc. and we're doing Batman Inc. stuff.
Right.
They're factored into the plot as like parts of the story, but it's not about them being Batman Inc.
Also,
it will be after this arc, though, I'm sure.
I hope not.
Well, I also love that Luthor's keeping the name Batman Inc. He didn't rename it. Yeah, he didn't rename it to anything. But yeah. And also like that we got the quick history. They were the Club of Heroes and now. And they've added Batman of China in there, which I do like because I miss those characters a whole lot. And then they added someone called the Hood, who looks very much like Spawn. So I had to look them up. And
he's familiar. I'm sure I've seen him in something.
Yeah. So basically, he's just I think like a British spy Batman.
So where he was in, where he's from.
I have to relook him up.
Never mind.
Yeah, but I know he started in the 80s, but because there's a lot of similarities to Azrael in him, because he's based off of Robin Hood, which is where he gets his name from.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
No, but it looks cool. I've definitely read him in something before because it didn't stick out to me. But yeah, no, I like Batman Inc. I'm looking forward to after this arc where we get more Batman Inc. Rather than just them as the plot. Because I like these characters and I like Club of Heroes stuff is always fun for me.
I like this issue, but I hope it doesn't go that route. So,
I mean, we've been in Gotham like. As long as we have, Batman doing stuff in Detective Comics in Gotham, I always like to see the two books be so different.
I'm down for the two books being different. I don't even need Batman to be in Gotham. I just don't like Batman Inc. as a concept. So I hope it doesn't become the focus of the book after after this arc is done. But that's just a personal preference. I like this issue quite a bit though. Like I enjoyed reading it. The art's good. Like I thought I hit a lot of high notes and it felt very pleasant. Felt very pleasant to read.
Every time I say I'm going to stop getting Batman physically, something like this happens.
I'll let you were ever going to stop when Williamson took over.
Yeah, exactly. And that was my whole thing. It's like, oh, I'll stop, when we get to 100. Okay, well, all the stuff is pretty good. I'll keep collecting it, and now we're on 118. And okay, I'll stop. I'll stop when Tynan's done. Oh, wait, Williamson's taking it? I have to keep getting it. So,
Yeah, and then
stop being good.
And then when it switches to Tom Taylor, you just have no choice. And it's like Matt's going to have like up to issue 200 at least by the time he stops buying this physically.
I have a lot of Batman going back to when I started getting comics.
Hey, if Williamson has remotely the length of run that he did on Flash, he might have 200 just for Williamson.
Yeah. That is very true.
Hopefully it keeps better consistency.
Please.
I would also hope that. Yeah, I would also hope that.
The only upside to the fact that if it is that long and it loses consistency, which I don't want, I'm not hoping for that obviously, is at least there's other Bat books, unlike Flash, where it's kind of just you've got Flash and that's it. Whereas if this book got bad, which again, I have no reason to expect that right now, but if it did, I'm gonna have other Bat books that I'm enjoying somewhere. Like that's a guarantee. The one thing I can guaranteed be relied on in DC is there will be a Bat book I will enjoy at all times.
Yeah, pretty much. Solid first outing. Looking forward to 119. Matt, what are you giving this issue?
I'm giving this an 8.5.
Okay.
I'm going to go with a straight 8. I think it's really great at what it's doing, but it's a first issue.
Yeah, I'll agree with the 8.5. I think I really dug this. It does feel different enough, but it did take time to kind of like, respect everything that just happened and not feel like it's just a sudden shift. At the very least, even if we are shifting suddenly now that we're in the case and he's moved to a different location, at least it took time to explain the shift. So it was like, hey, here's a bit of extra epilogue to the events that just happened. Gotham's recovering from it. And maybe it helps that, the story might take place out of Gotham, so it's not Gotham in jeopardy. I mean, admittedly, detectives about to do that. So, I mean, Gotham doesn't get arrested.
Gotham's always in jeopardy.
Yeah, Gotham doesn't get arrested. That's just the truth. So there you go. That's Batman 118. Superman, Son of Kal-El, 2021 annual. This is Tom Taylor writing with Clayton Henry and Steve Pugh on the art. This is
Steve Pugh and there's a second artist.
Clayton Henry, I said.
Clayton Henry. He did say that.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, my bad. I missed that part.
I don't like giving Pete credit for anything, but
I legit didn't hear him say Clayton Henry. In my head, it went straight from Tom Taylor to the other artist. Go ahead. Pugh.
I'm so glad that 20 seconds happened. It was the worthwhile part of my life. So, yes, Superman, Son of Kal-El. So, doesn't necessarily have to fit in between the issues that it's hit from, give or take. Although I'm sure it's important to read this before probably the next arc, because Lex is around now and stuff. But it does feel like an important part of the run. Like, it feels like what this sets up with Lex is going to be something that is, at the very least, Lex is going to be around. And how he interacts with Lex, like his first encounter with Lex, is important. And that's what this is. This is the first time that John as Superman deals with Lex Luthor. This
is definitely going to be in the trade. It'll probably be at the end or the start of one.
Yeah.
They'll be like between arcs. They won't throw this in the middle of the arc. But it will be. I'm very confident that it will be included.
Yeah, and it's very good, so it should be included anyway. But it does feel like it feels like an important part of the overall run still, even if it's not directly taking place in between the issues that are coming out right now. So yeah, we get a flashback first, looking at Superman fighting Lex and Metallo, but it's all a ruse from the Justice League. Metallo turns out to be Martian Manhunter. Batman recorded Lex admitting to a bunch of crimes, and they take him in. Very sort of old school cartoony art style here.
This is the Clayton Henry stuff. I'm assuming by the foreheads.
Yeah, you can tell by the massive domes.
Yep. And then we continue the flashback with Lex in prison, and Superman comes to see him. And Lex wants to play chess. And Superman makes his first move, but then ultimately doesn't make any more, and really wants to finish the game. He's really upset about it. And there's a lot of like Lex's mistrust kind of like shown in this scene, where he like, oh, how do we pick who goes first? Because you can see like through me to see what piece I'm holding in each hand, which is typically how people pick which side of chess they're going to play. And he's like, I'll think of a number, and then Superman's like, you'll cheat. Okay, you think of a number then. So like really nice little bit of like their sort of repertoire and like back and forth in the scene. I particularly enjoyed Superman moving his knight in front of his pawns, and Lex critiquing how on brand that was for Superman.
Yeah.
And then I really like the moment at the end of this where as Superman leaves, he's saying, "I'm not playing your games. I can move in a way you can't."
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's really important for the rest of the issue to see, okay, how John then interacts with Lex. And it's like the difference between John and Clark, and really kind of selling how they are going to be very different men.
Yeah, so we come to present day, and John's talking to Lois a little bit about things. Batman shows up, that's Batman visit. So apparently Tom Taylor wasn't satisfied making me tear up a little bit about Alfred constantly in Nightwing, that he had to throw a little bit of it into Superman as well. I don't know if anyone else noticed this little this little moment. Batman shows up. I love how Lois just immediately goes, John's not joining the Justice League, and he's like, I'm not here for that.
Not yet.
But he's like, hey, Superman left you a message, hands him a crystal. But yeah, the thing about Alfred is that Alfred would have Earl Grey tea shipped to all of the houses that he expects Batman is going to visit, so that it's always there for him when they offer him a drink.
Yeah, I love this entire section of the book where the idea, Batman knocks. It's like, he does it at this house because
last time
Lois gave him an earful by the sound of it.
Yeah.
Yes, I appeared in the kitchen once. Never again.
Yep, I love that.
Also, just on the art, obviously the art's very different to the opening stuff. Playing Henry, the big colourful kind of almost Silver Age-esque kind of feeling to evoke the past, and then this here is Pugh's art. It's very different. I'm not sure I'm the biggest fan of his John, but oh my god, he draws an amazing Lois.
Lois is good.
Lois is good, but his Batman with the figure that he cuts in the doorway.
Do you know what sells his Batman for me is the shoulder spikes. It's very 90s, but it's like I dig it.
Yeah, I was thinking 90s, although the ears are a lot shorter than the 90s, where the ears were much taller. But
it's the shoulder spikes on that give the cape that upturn feeling that really sells it.
Yeah. So John goes to the fortress. He does help out a polar bear though, who's struggling because the ice is melting around the fortress. So this book obviously has been very political before. No change here with this. Although he refuses to give the bear some seals, he just brings it some berries.
I'm not going to seal them. Can we talk about how he calls the polar bear Gale?
That's a very good name for a bear.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I love it.
This was possibly my favorite moment of this. This is taking comics Twitter and throwing it into a book and being like, if you don't get it, this is fine. It's just nothing. It's just a little moment. Whereas if you pay attention to comics Twitter, if you follow Gail Simone, this was hilarious.
Yeah. So he goes out. It turns out the crystal is actually Clark has made him an AI style recording, and much in the same way that he had of Jor-El. Obviously the tone is very different. Notably, he's wearing a Smallville shirt because, of course, he is.
Which I love that's because this Clark is Dad Clark, right? So of course he's gonna present himself as without the suit and with the glasses on, and
he won't answer, where he is or when he'll be back. But his main purpose here, one of the reasons why he left this message, is like, hey, there's some things we have to talk about. And I think the first big one is Lex Luthor, because you're going to cross paths, and you have to know some stuff. You have to learn from my mistakes. And then we get sort of the sequence here, and I love this, is Lex sending a package to various rich crime bosses and stuff, including Blockbuster and some others, and is like, hey, inside that box there was a nano chip thing that went into your nose, and I can kill you and it'll look like a stroke. And I did it to this other guy recently, and at one point someone says, like, how do we know you're even telling the truth? Like, what if there is, like, and he's like, well, there either is or there isn't. It's Schrodinger's nanite. Like,
Schrodinger's deadly braid nanite. It both does and doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And it's like, Lex Luthor, you real piece of work.
It's really good stuff. He's extorting them all for money so he can buy his new tower in Metropolis. And one of them does actually show up later on, having suffered a stroke. But Lex never admits that it was really him. It's all sort of played for, it probably did do it, but he's never going to see it.
No, so he's like, did you kill them? And he's like, no, they just had a stroke. So there were no nanites. Goodbye. With a big grin on his face as well.
Really,
I can neither confirm nor deny those accusations.
Yeah, really big shitty grin. So he's got this new tower, he's got LexCorp across the top of it. John is livid about the whole thing, especially when he notices that it's positioned just right so that, at least for a few hours during the day, the shadow of the word Lex is hitting the Daily Planet building.
Yeah.
Which I thought was a wonderful touch.
Like shithousery.
Very.
What I dug about this, though, probably my funniest moment of this issue was the explosion that knocks off the L, and then immediately John turns around and says, "It wasn't me."
Yeah, but I could see how this would look bad.
Because he's literally just complaining about it, and then there's an explosion that knocks it off, and she's like, "John, it wasn't me, I swear. I need to go catch it, though. Don't want anyone to get crushed."
And then he goes, and there's Lex spots, it looks like they're purple, and why are Lex spots attacking Lex Tower? So it's
really simple. It's one of the guys he tried to blackmail, like made the processor or something, and he did a switcheroo.
So Lex is in a new, because we saw in the beginning section he was in his traditional power suit, and so now after that one got destroyed by Superman, here's this new one. Like,
there's always a new power suit.
Oh yeah, I mean, I didn't take this as the new one because Superman destroyed the old one. I took this as
no.
That one we saw in the flashback was way back the first time he caught Lex. That he's been through 10 power suits, 20 power suits since then.
This is a different Lex now, right? It's a, so.
And it's not a team up. It's not a team up.
We're at the same. I just want to make it clear, we're just two people fighting in the same space. This is not a team up, and Lex agrees, which I love.
And of course, he wants to play chess with John. We find out a little bit later that John had never played before, but he goes off and he basically goes off and watches Queen's Gambit, reads a bunch of chess books and super speed,
and studies Lex's game specifically.
Yes, and comes back and dominates him. I do always love the joke of someone being good at chess but still calling the knight the horsey just to rub it into the other person.
That moment made me laugh because that's checkmate. Because of my horsey?
And notably, the knight is the first piece the Superman moved. Just a nice little thread.
And this is where it comes back to that moment from Superman at the end going, I'm not playing by your game. Whereas John is willing to play the game. John is willing to play the game and win at it. And kind of,
and this...
not unethically. He doesn't cheat in any way. He's willing to learn the rules of the game and adapt to it.
Well, and he uses his advantages against... That's what Lex does, right?
And this goes back to what we've been saying since issue 1 of this book, is that John is a Superman who is willing to get into the dirt and willing to get into the politics and try and make a difference in ways that Superman sort of like made a point of abstaining from because he didn't want to sort of be this like godly figure who influenced things with his strength. I think
that's where like this idea of the right-wing Superman, I think it comes from that idea of non-interference, right? And especially these days, the idea of, you're not taking a stand against something that's almost just as bad in a lot of ways as being for the other thing.
It's supporting the status quo effectively.
Right. And I guess that's where the idea, at least in recent times, is kind of perpetuated from, and that's probably why Didier wanted to go that route with Superman.
I would argue it's more cynical in that that's the Dark Knight Returns Superman.
It is. It is that. But I'm wondering if maybe that's if that's the Superman you want to tell the story of right now, that's at least how you sell it as being relevant. Is kind of you take that angle. But this is John being the epitome of the kids are all right. They're being the activist essentially.
Yeah. So. Really neat touch, and then it's got the final little joke moment where he brings up the because Lex is pissed about the game. He calls him a little shit, And then John hands him his big L and says, Luthor, you should take the L, and leaves this giant L that fell off his building right next to him, which is a really funny joke. It's the super powered version of saying take the L. He literally gives him a big L.
Yep.
It's pretty funny. I got a chuckle out of it. So yeah, that's basically the book. There's one little tease at the end, but we find out he killed the guy, which we mentioned already.
No longer Schrodinger's nanites.
No.
Because this is the guy that turned on him, right? This is the guy the processor.
Yes.
Yeah, and so, but he says call the president of Gamora. He's willing to talk about the Rising, which is Bendix and the main book.
So that means that he's already conniving against John. He's saying he's willing to help save the world because he's got resources. And I do kind of like that John's argument to him is that, a lot of people don't want to deal with these issues because they don't believe they'll be alive when the actual receipts come in. But we both know you're going to either find a way to transfer to a new body or a robot suit or something.
Luthor will find a way.
Yes.
Yeah. And I do believe that, again, not that Luthor's not evil, but he's never wanted to destroy the planet, right? He wants to live. He wants to control it.
Well, I mean, that's why I had a problem with his characterization during the whole Snyder Justice League run, is that it kind of felt like he was shifting towards...
He was trying to reform it into his whole whatever Doom meant, right?
But I don't think it wasn't destruction even in that book. No. It was a form of...
It was clearly going to be, though. Like, Perpetua was all about the... she might have been saying whatever. But
I think she played Lex. That's why Lex ends up, not exactly going along with Perpetua at a certain point.
Yeah.
So this kind of makes sense here, right?
Yeah. Well, that's the point I'm making, though, is that when I got to this beat in the story, I really appreciated it because it felt like Lex to me, as opposed to where I didn't like that story. One of the problems I had is that Lex felt like he was just a different character for a lot of that book.
Right. But I like here, though, too, that he realizes with John that he can't, he can have the antagonistic relationship with Superman, right? Like that give and take. But with John just showed him he can beat him in his own game. So he's got to go outside of him. Yep. If he really wants to mess with John.
I think it'll probably make Lex more dangerous in the long run because with Superman wasn't willing to play the game. So Lex kind of just stayed not safe, but he was predictable. Right. Whereas if John's going to play by Lex's rules, so to speak, Lex is going to have to go off book.
Yeah. One thing I thought about too when you guys were talking about Superman wanting to stay out, right? He's kind of almost like a referee, where he wants to be outside of things, and he'll get involved when he needs to offset things, but it's always on a certain side, right? He's always going to enforce the rules. He's lawful good in that way. Whereas I feel like John's not afraid to work the refs.
Definitely chaotic good.
Yeah, where he's like, no, the refs are there, but sometimes the refs are dumb, and you can take advantage of that.
That's what happens when you're best friends with Damien growing up. Is
that's the point I was going to get to is, of course he wouldn't read all the stuff. He used his advantages because what would have Damien done? He'd have told him, you can live life at super speed. Go do that. And so, yeah, man, Taylor's so good. We say this every time, but this issue felt so nice because
it didn't feel annual sized. It went so quick that I never even noticed the page count.
And Taylor's been trying to do his own thing with John, right? Where he's establishing his own thing. So to bring back Lex into this, but it's just in the annual, it felt like he was writing a proper Superman book. Because even those first, what was it, maybe a quarter of the book was that backstory. It just felt like Taylor's writing Superman story that transitions to John. So, and it just felt right. It's nice to have a writer that gets the characters.
Yeah, although I don't think for a second that this is Lex is definitely going to show up in the main book after this.
No, most likely.
Yeah. So, no, unsurprisingly, and I think Taylor's Superman book was promising at first, but it wasn't quite the home run from the first issue. But it's done nothing but get better and more intriguing as to what it's been doing and setting up with John and his surrounding supporting cast and his surrounding world and his worldviews. Have done nothing but get more interesting the more the book has been on. And we're only 4 or 5 issues in at this point, plus an annual. Yeah. So
I think the last one was 5. Yeah.
5.
So, yeah, good stuff. Matt, what are you giving Superman, Son of Kal-El, 2021 annual?
I give it more, but the Clayton Henry heads always throw me. But I'm going to give this a 9.
I was giving it more. I'm giving it a 9.
Yeah.
Connor?
I don't have a problem with Clayton Henry heads. It's just I've just accepted now that they're a distinguishing feature, and I don't really mind them anymore. But I'm also going to give it a 9.
I am going to go 8.5. I think, and for me, it probably is Clayton Henry that's dropping at the half point, but it's actually less so the heads, and like because his heads have been worse. Like I've definitely read other books that Clayton Henry's done where the heads have annoyed me way more.
Every time he did a Flash issue.
Yes, precisely that. I think for me though with this, my problem with the art, which is not bad art, that first like chunk, all the flashback stuff with Superman and Lex, it's more that it's so clean. Is that it looked kind of like the art you would get in an old like 2D like animated series or something like that, and the art in like something like that has a very sort of like simple look to it because they have to animate it, so there's so many frames and panels and blah blah blah. It just, I don't know, it feels a bit like, it feels like the sort of art you get in like a tie-in comic that's trying to mimic an animated series as opposed to an actual Superman comic. And I know that's a weird distinction to make, but it's just a feeling, and when I feel it, it just feels a little off. Whereas the art after the switch didn't feel that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I get what you're saying.
Well, that was probably a long-winded description to say that I just didn't like the art as much.
I get what you're saying, while disagreeing with the feeling.
That's fair. You may like that feeling, but I don't tend to love when I get that feeling from comic art. So, 8.5 from me. Okay. Let's keep this Tom Taylor train going here, because we got another one to talk about. Some Juicy Taylor books.
You went to ASMR mode right there for a second.
Please never do it again.
Oh, well, that case is going to be our main feature every week.
Connor, why would you say anything?
Every Tom Taylor book now is going to be like...
I apologize, audience.
Coming up next, we got Tom Taylor. All right. I'm done, Matt. I'm done.
Okay. I was waiting to see. I was waiting for a break talking.
I would have done, but
it hurts
to back on is actually kind of awkward. Right
yeah,
now.
It hurts too much. It hurts him too much to take his headphones on and off.
What if he was willing to hurt himself to take the headphones off, though?
Because they're on like a headband springy. More than once, I have tried to put them on with one hand, and it kind of slips and twangs and smacks me like the side of the head, and it's not nice.
Oh, wonderful. All right.
Next book.
Dark Knights of Steel issue 2, Tom Taylor with Yasmine Putri on the art. And I guess the first thing we have to talk about with this, just to sort of skip to one of the big talking points, is that Jor-El in this universe is getting around a bit.
You know what, though? Taking that this is a medieval style world, it checks out. He was the king.
I was going to say medieval king, getting around a bit.
Yeah.
It's just, we found out last issue that he's got a bat baby and that Bruce Wayne's his son.
A bat bastard.
Right. And then in this issue, we found out that he's got an Amazon daughter because he's got a daughter who's on Themyscira, who's basically this world's version of Supergirl, but it's not Kara, it's
Zala Jor-El.
Zala, yeah. Zala Jor-El.
But she is blonde. She's the de facto Supergirl.
Yes.
So I didn't make the connection. She was Amazonian. I thought she was just there on Themyscira.
I mean, I don't think they ever say who her mother is, but I assumed it was Hippolyta.
But it makes. Well, wait.
I was going to say I didn't think so. I didn't think she was Amazonian. I thought she was there because she's
training.
Not even just training. She's clearly in a relationship with. I assume it's Diana.
Yeah, her and Diana. Yeah,
so I assumed she was like, oh, I'm living there with her, right?
Right. But either way, this is how Jor-El would, create the bond between Themyscira and.
You could be right. Yeah. It may just be that she's there for other reasons, but my instinct, because we found out last issue that Batman was a son of Jor-El, I immediately went, oh, he's got an Amazonian daughter too.
But that would make sense too, that he's, got an Amazonian daughter, so now she has a claim.
Yeah, it's like he's trying to unite all these different parts of the world. So the Amazons, so on and so on.
United, just
I personally took this as, this is still his daughter with Lara.
That's right. That's what I thought too.
It's conquest through marriage, essentially. Of send her to be with the princess of Themyscira.
You may be right, but it's funnier if he knocked up Hippolyta.
Yeah. Well, but then that makes them sisters because Hippolyta is.
Look, if we're comparing this to Game of Thrones, this is right up the alley we should be going. Okay.
Well, for the bad characters.
Well, she's pretty angry. She does kill someone at the end of this show.
My brother's getting rid of stuff, and he put up a picture of his ottoman, and you could clearly see his House Lannister banner hanging. And I was like, dude, what are you doing? Oh, it came in a package. I was like, so you put it in the prime spot? What are you doing, my guy?
All right, so
anyway,
to jump into the issue, sort of in order, Bruce is holding Jor-El's dead body.
The arrow through the eye, much worse than an arrow in the knee.
So Batman goes all night, and he gets up to Green. Well, he actually saves Alfred first. He grabs an arrow that's about to hit him in the face. Which something about Batman in this world saving Alfred when he's just died in real continuity, he's got an extra little sting to it.
Yeah.
But he gets to Green Arrow and chops off his arm immediately.
Yeah. Which is it an alternate world if Ollie has both arms? I don't think it is.
Signature, yeah.
So that's pretty funny.
Yeah, just in terms of referencing fantasy works, that this is inspired by Hobb Forrest. I'm assuming is a reference to Robin Hobb, prolific fantasy author.
Oh, maybe. I also thought of Hobbs Bay in Metropolis.
He just said Robin Hobb like I was supposed to know what the hell that was. Like, wait, do you mean Robin Hood? I'm pretty sure the Robin Hood comparison with Ollie's already there, Connor.
I mean, maybe Connor too, but also there's a Hobbs Bay in Metropolis that I thought maybe that was a reference to. But yours makes way more sense.
The Assassin's Apprentice, I think, is the first one. They're pretty famous fantasy books, like mid-90s.
So yeah, and it's funny because you're like, okay, how far does Batman go in this world? But he does actually make it very clear later that he does not kill still. He's willing to chop off a limb, which we know our Batman typically wouldn't do, but this one is. So he's more vicious, but
also half Kryptonian.
Yeah, that's also true. So we tease another, Green Man, I guess, because I think we took this as Oliver last issue.
Yeah, but I don't think it is.
Yeah, it feels like there's a Green Man at the top of the food chain, though, that's like behind this. Because
I assumed it was Green Lantern.
I mean, I assume it is a Green Lantern, but we don't see who specifically.
He is floating. It could also be a Swamp Thing.
He's floating and says, "The ring told me to leave him." It's a Green Lantern.
True.
Yeah, we know it's a Green Lantern. We're not debating.
Well,
Green
Matt was just debating that.
No.
Well, Matt's being stupid for 30 seconds. That's fine. But but I'm saying that we didn't know it was a Green Lantern last issue, and we still don't know which Green Lantern it is. Even if it is a Green, it may not even be a Green Lantern that's normally a Green Lantern. This could be another character that's got a ring.
Right.
Oh yes, that's just what we need. Tom Taylor introducing more Green Lantern crossovers.
This could be like Jason Todd, for all we know, with a Green Lantern ring.
Well, also, I was going off of mythology with a swamp being the Green Man, and the fact that he was talking to Constantine, and then I forgot the part about the ring.
Hey Matt, it could be Alec Holland with a Green Lantern ring. You don't know.
Right. True.
It's possible. I think the fact that we're not showing, and we have some sort of flowing bits of fabric and the little
bandages.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like he's maybe impoverished type, like one of those. He's unassuming. Just the whole Kingdom of Storms. A really good look because you have that like medieval looking city with the fortress, but then the lightning and stuff behind it. Which
is a really neat transition into the next page because it cuts into like Jefferson teaching the kids how to use their powers.
I think it's a really nice transition away from the stuff that we were doing, with Batman and stuff in the forest was in this pouring rain storm.
Yeah.
Whereas here, it's actually quite sunny. It's it's very like tropical. It looks almost like medieval Spain.
So
and then you've got all these but storms in the background.
So here's a question: Jacob, this third kid, is this a completely new creation or is this from something?
Yeah, I mean you gotta create something just to get rid of it.
Yeah, there was a moment during this where I was like, "There's a third one. I think I know where this is going."
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Like it was pretty, and the power he's got is interesting though. He can make it rain. Like he can control water.
Yeah, which I like how in the different Pierces, each of them kind of split a weather power. Thunder's is a little bit different because it's more gravity kind of based.
Thunder, lightning, rain, essentially.
Yeah, so I do like that. But
is it gravity based or is it a manipulation of the sound?
I always took it as gravity based because she was making her maths.
I think normally in normal continuity, probably.
Yeah. But
in
here,
this specific, I think when we're taking the more magical approach and kind of making that, whether more literal, I think it's more the sound of thunder that is being controlled, and it's powerful enough to create the earthquakes and stuff.
Yeah, and Black Lightning points out as well that it's like they've not had someone who can control rain in the family for generations. So this is something they've expected to return for some time.
Yeah.
So it's curious.
Oh man,
a curious little detail there.
But I also do like here that we get the they don't seem properly villainous. Like maybe Green Man is right, but we just get the vibe that
Green Man almost, it feels more like a Power Ring type character to me. The way he says the ring told me to do it, it feels more like Power Ring from what do you call them?
But from how we were introduced last time, from Syndicate. But from last time when we saw that Pierce really wants the prophecy, right, that Constantine had said, I kind of was going to get a vibe that there's a little bit more darkness here. Maybe there is, and we'll see it unleashed after what happens here. But I don't know. He seems pretty well like he has some points with how the House of El is locking up magical people for no reason. But then they point out, they go, well, that's mainly a bat thing. Like that's Wayne's paranoia. But then, we'll get there, I'm sure. We see who's been locked up, and it's kind of like, well, what's the end game here, right? Like, it clearly feels like he's in the wrong. So, like, who's manipulating these two families against each other is the ultimate question.
I think that's part of the point of this issue, is that it shows you both of them doing things that are definitively mean or evil, but they're also showing that they both have these lines. There's a moment where both Batman and Superman say in this issue, we don't kill, right? This is not who we are. Like, both of them have those lines. But there's a lot of lines in this where Clark has been a complete dick to Bruce. It's like, this is a matter for family to discuss, not for you.
And they point out, though, I think it's Alfred that points out, like, he's grieving right now.
Yeah.
He didn't mean that.
Yeah. But even in this angry state, in a couple of pages' time, he still says to Green Arrow, the prisoner, like, you're going to see that we are not evil, or I can't remember what the exact line is, but you're going to see that we are good people. We are not malicious or whatever. So
not what you think we are.
Yeah.
It was very much when Clark yells at Bruce. It was very much Game of Thrones with Rob and John, right? Yeah. When John's trying to put in his, and he's like, "You're not even a real member of this family," and it's kind of like, well, maybe if he treated him like that, he wouldn't, have this darkness about him. I don't know.
There is definitely some heavy Game of Thrones influence going on in this, and that's not surprising given its popularity.
Considering how it ends, maybe we're going to get a Third Eye Raven. Right?
Maybe we'll get a more satisfying conclusion here.
Yeah.
Yes, Game of Thrones references. I understand all those.
Also, Lois as the messenger? Perfect. Goddamn, Taylor.
Yeah, so we get to see Lois in this world who we didn't get to see last issue, and same with Wonder Woman, obviously. But yeah, we're interested with Zala, and she finds out about her father, and flies off, and it's obviously because there's all this tension building, there's all this like scheming, if you can even call that on both sides, just sort of reacting to what's happened and what they want to do about this potential prophecy and all that. But the big payoff to this is that there's a rumble in the middle of the night at the palace where Black Lightning is with his family, and basically Zala has just ripped this young son out of his room through the wall, flies him up out of the sky, and just lets go.
Yep.
It's super dark. It's a super big dramatic ending, and Black Lightning tries to shock her, and she's like, it tickles, and just flies off like he has no power. Because she blames him. She assumes he's behind it, that he's behind the assassination. And
I mean, he kind of is.
I mean,
well, yeah, I'm not saying he isn't. I'm saying she just assumed it, though.
Yes.
Right. Well, she does the whole eye for an eye thing, and we all know in fantasy tropes how that ends up working, and it doesn't usually work out well. But yeah, I mean, he took her father. She takes his son.
Also, I think that's why it's maybe important that she is a legitimate daughter,
right,
of the two.
Because this is an act of war, not an act of war. This is a retaliation.
It's a retaliation, but as opposed to just coming from it's someone who, we hired an assassin, they hired an assassin. This is family, and it's not, and I think the fact that she wears the colors, she has the same blue and the red cape, I think that tells me that she is probably a legitimate daughter, and that this now feels like it's sanctioned as opposed to just, we're doing the behind the scenes stuff.
Well,
I think that makes it more important that maybe she does have that authority to kind of do an act like this, and it'll be read in a certain way.
Right. Well, because they sent the messenger to her, to the Amazon Isle. So, and they knew what she would do. So if she is this loose cannon, they knew exactly what they were doing.
Yeah, I think she is definitely a loose cannon. I don't know if I would say she has the authority in the sense that this is not a strategic decision that anyone has made, that she is.
No.
When I say she has the authority, I don't mean she has the authority from the elves, but I think that Pierce will see her as having that authority because
and this just stokes who's ever Green Man is or working for in order
to go back to the Game of Thrones comparisons. Using Batman is like when they use like I'm completely forgetting the name of the bastard.
You're talking about Ramsay.
Ramsay, thank you. Yes.
Yeah, Ramsay Snow.
Like, the idea of, okay, well, using the bastard, I can just like dismiss that. I can put distance between that, and it's not from my authority. He's acting on his own. I can disown him at any point. Whereas, here doing it under the L name legitimately makes it an actual act of war, as opposed to just something that they can disown.
Well,
there is no getting away from this from the elves now, and that Pierce will see it that way.
Well, it's an escalation, right? Is that they killed Jor-El, who was king. So now Clark's next in line, but we're going to assume that Laura's going to be the Queen Regent, right? Yeah. And then, so how do they respond? Zala goes and takes the next in line and destroys that. Yeah. Because there's 2 daughters as well, right? She went after the son. So, it's all...
assuming this follows typical medieval rules that the son would have inherited, right? Would have been next in line, despite being quite clearly the youngest.
Right. So, but so I like all that, and then before that happens, they go to the dungeons where Ollie's being kept, and this is where we see Harley trying to reason with Bruce, which I like this too because it plays into the historical roles of jesters, right? That they weren't just there for entertainment, they were also advisors because they were the ones that had the permission to tell the king whatever, right? Because they could always do it under the guise of comedy and performance. But like, you have Blue Demon there, you have the Airy, you have King Shark,
some sort of speedster, like some level of Flash. I'm not sure who it is, but
I'm guessing if it's not Barry because the blonde hair, it's Jesse Quick, right?
Yeah.
But Detective Chimp, and then I don't know who this reptilian guy is.
It'll be I'm completely blank on his name. He's from Young Justice, so he's using that a lot, right?
Okay.
Completely blank on the name, but I think that's who it is.
But so you have them, and these are all the people that Bruce has locked up because of their quote magic abilities, right? There's a speedster, Blue Demon, King Shark, you have Detective Chimp, who we know.
And it's clear there's no distinguishing between, some of them are probably good, some of them less so.
And that's where she kind of calls them out. It's like locking all these people up without a crime as precaution. It's a bit crappy. And it's almost as if Bruce knows all this, but he does it anyways because he's trying to keep the family safe from magic, knowing that magic is the weakness. And through all of this, that didn't work. So now he's holding himself even more at odds. But and then we get to the part where Pete had brought up where Clark basically says, we're not what you think we are. We'll show you. Yet right after or right before his sister goes and drops the kid
the transitioning line into that is, we're not killers. And then, well, one of them is.
Yeah.
Well, it clearly distinguishes that she is acting like she's just going angry and acting on a whim on her own. This is not a team play by any means.
No. So, and there might have been a reason she was off at the Amazon.
Maybe she's got anger management issues in the first place.
Which training her to kill better might not be the best, but hey.
I still think we'll just have a look. And the most obvious reason is she's there because Diana.
Yeah, more than likely.
Yeah.
But yeah, no.
And I don't think they sent this message with the intention of, oh, she's going to go off and do something rogue. I think her dad died. We should probably tell her.
Knowing fantasy tropes, which Games of Thrones, I know Pete hates bringing this up, played so much off of, there's always people behind the kings and the queens. And it wouldn't surprise me if there's someone in the House of El that is stoking these fires as much as Green Man is on the other side. You know?
Yeah.
So it just seems like this is how you create a new order. And we know from Tom Taylor, from stories he's told, that's kind of his whole thing is when there's an order that's been corrupted, you have to destroy it and start again. So, and it's interesting that out of all of his creator-owned characters, the Aerie is one of the ones that's locked away, right? And what does the Aerie represent through what we've seen in Suicide Squad and even showing up in Son of Kal-El. So, but yeah, no, this is some really good medieval fantasy style superhero, but it still seems
exactly what I wanted this book to be.
Yeah, but there's still some contemporary stuff thrown in here, like with some of the names and some of the descriptions. So, yeah.
Yeah. All right, Matt, what are you giving it?
I'm gonna give this an 8.
Connor?
I'm giving it a 9.
I will give it an 8 as well. I think it's pretty well done. This discussion I give like a 4 out of 10. But that's...
I'm sorry that this is hitting all the stuff that me and Matt enjoy and that you don't.
I think I actually like it less after having to listen to you two talk about it, honestly. That's where I'm at, honestly. So there we go. Right, next up we have the Swamp Thing, issue 10, Ram V writing with Mike Perkins on the art. So big stuff.
Still season finale, essentially.
Yeah,
kind of like. I think they always expected to get more. Is my
I hope that they were writing to get more, because if this was the last issue, I'd have been very upset.
Yeah,
I think by the time he wrote this issue, because we know Ramby writes his issues quite late, that he knew he was getting more by this issue. But I still think there's a lot of elements in this that, a little tweak here or there, and this does work as the ending of your season.
Yeah, no, I don't say it doesn't work. But it poses a lot more questions here, that this wasn't very fulfilling if this was meant to be a finale. And knowing that we have more is nice, but there's still a lot to unpack with Levi and Jacob and this company and stuff. So,
I don't think this does feel like a finale. Mid-season finale, maybe a more apt way of putting it for me, where it still feels like the actual main plot beats are all still there to be done. It's just that there is a nice sense of reflection upon what's come so far. I like this show a lot, though. I feel like I'm having to sound negative because I'm having to dispute what Cara just said, but I actually really like this issue. I just don't agree that it feels like a finale. But it does a good job of kind of reestablishing his relationship with his brother. Talks about how the trees in the green have witnessed all of these happy moments and memories. And even the angry parts, like them being chopped down, which is one of the panels. All of this stuff, and then it transitions to the big fight that we kind of left off the cliffhanger on last issue. What's the guy's name again? I'll keep forgetting the rich guy's name.
It's the Prescott guy, but that's not.
He's not Prescott though. We established this last issue.
Yeah.
He he wants to set off his liquid nitrogen. This is his contingency plan to kill any of these life forms that are in there.
Mr. Pilgrim.
There you go, Pilgrim. And this is just a lot of great fight art and stuff like that. And them debating, and the idea that Levi feels guilty because he kind of assisted their local forest being given up, right? That was his guilt. We got a lot of flashbacks about that. His brother blames him for it. And he tries to protect his brother here. Jacob, right at the end, he tries to cover him when all this nitrogen's going off. And they leave thinking he's dead. Jennifer thinks that he's just killed her not boyfriend. They're in a weird place. But and she's like what, you expect me to just walk away? He's like, well, right now you're not a threat because no one would believe you, but you kind of want me to keep thinking you're not a threat, so maybe just, go live your life. Forget this ever happened. And I really liked all the art here. I think one of my favorite things about the art in this issue is there's so many close-ups of either his face or, as we see in a second, Woodrow, because that's who he's going to meet. That's his backup, because he's lost his specimens, and it's like, okay, now we can do something with him. And a lot of these close-ups with the deep shadows around the eyes and like just the expressions, I think Perkins is legitimately getting better, like before our eyes. I think his facial expressions and the performances he's putting onto the characters is improving with time. I think it's better now than it was at the start of this book, and I think they're better than they ever were in Lois Lane, which I also thought had really good art.
Yeah, but you can go back to, we had Perkins on that Green Lantern arc for a little while, right at the end of that book. Yep. Even going back to that, we were constantly saying, the faces were the weak point, where whenever things had to be in the light and just kind of reacting, those tend to be his weakest elements, where, when he was playing with things in the shadows, they were fantastic. But it's gotten to the point where the shadows are still his strength. That is still his natural playground of where stuff looks the best. But it's not as big a discrepancy as it used to be anymore.
No. Of course, Levi gets contacted by the Green. Effectively, he's contacted by a being that is all of the avatars that have came before. So all of the Swamp Things that have existed prior kind of like merged into one. Just like he kind of represents all of the Swamp Things to come. And he basically tells them that, there's still more people to save, there's still hope. The reason why the Green keeps reaching out, because the Green is this kind of just silent watcher, but the fact that they keep creating avatars to interact with the world and intervene means that they don't want to just be watchers. They want to actually help. They want to create balance.
They need to protect themselves somehow, because mankind's not going to do it on their own. Well, so they need a representative. Yeah,
but it's not just about protecting themselves, though. I think this comes across as a lot more selfless to me, the way it's described here.
That's what I mean, too. But, if they don't have the avatar to speak up for them, how are they going to do it? Right? And I do like that. I like that the idea that there's always been a Swamp Thing somehow. That goes back to this. I don't know if that goes back before the Snyder stuff. But I did like that being brought up. And here that plays with that more, just because you have that creature there on the side too with the tusks.
What was?
Yeah.
So sure.
That was the big thing, the big elemental one that was inside the Green in the middle of this story.
Yeah.
Yeah. That wasn't the tone I was giving you. I was just like, why would I know the name of that creature?
I mean, one, because it's the Wood Wars. Why would you not know it? And two, it says it on that very page.
Yeah.
And that's what it was referring to.
Well, that's because you don't remember cool things, clearly.
But anyways. But because that's what that represented, right? Was the whole elemental nature of things. And that, once as a Swamp Thing, you can kind of control that. That's where you gain your powers from, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for me, this was more about the idea of hope and the idea that the trees witness so many good people. As much as they witness a lot of bad people and they witness a lot of bad things, they see a lot of good people too, and they see a lot of people they can believe in. And it's this avatar says this is why they chose you, is because you have this ability to hope, this hope that drives us all, that drives us to act. You have that within you. I really like the touch on the art here where there's a panel. It's like the roots underground. But it's two hands, one pulling the other hand up, kind of thing. But it's the roots are doing that. Really nice touch. But Swamp Thing does kind of break out of the ice and wakes up, and he uses the Green reminds him that, hey, there's this flower that can create heat, and this is to help his brother. So he kind of goes over his brother and uses this to thaw him out. So it's a really
it kind of gives birth to him almost.
Yeah.
Well, it's like he sort of consumes him to heat him up. Well, or he already had him inside him because of the way he shielded him.
Because he covered him up, right? And then here he uses the heat to react him. But I also like how skeletal the Swamp Thing looks when it rises out of the rubble.
There's not that much green matter for it to draw on around, so it's just the bare minimum. Right,
and it's very cocoon-like, and And so when it does, like you said, like it almost gives birth to Jacob here.
Yeah, but it's just a really like the idea of like finding a way to heat up his brother, even though his brother is like the villain in a lot of ways. Is this really sort of biblical kind of like just big moment? It's done without almost any words throughout over these pages. And like, he's really weak after it. He kind of slumps to the ground afterwards. They're both like clearly drained by this what's happened to them. So really effective. And then it like cuts to Woodrow doing his work, and it turns out that this is actually tying into that first story we got, the desert avatar that we met. At least that's what one of them suspects it is. Like back in the first couple of issues, like that's the specimen they've got now, and this is what Woodrow's working on.
Really neat tying it back to that first, first issue, and I think it was the first 2 issues, right? But
first 2 issues.
Really neat tying it back to that first story.
Yeah, and there was obviously a lot of backstory in those 2 issues, but this idea there's other things other than, and we've already known for a while that there's the red and there's the rot, but the idea that there's more like things like that maybe can be tapped
more
into.
Ideas.
I think more ideas at smaller scale, in the sense that the green, the red, and the rot are all encompassing, right?
Yeah.
But this is desert. It's smaller. It's more specific than just those big generic archetypes of life.
Cool. And I like here they says that through the technology Prescott's developed, we might find we're reaching into a completely different idea. So what does that mean when you start mixing the technology with these primal forces?
I feel like he's going to make something nasty that Swamp Thing is going to have to fight.
Kind of reminds me of American Gods a little bit. That story, the idea of the ancient mythologies meeting the new world technology and kind of what happens.
Right.
It kind of feels like there's a lot of that going on here.
Don't remind me of that show.
I'm not reminding you of the show. I'm reminding you of a fantastic novel.
Yeah.
I don't care about the novel. I saw.
I love that with Pete. His stuff is very movies and TV focused.
Well, because I've seen the show.
Don't remind me.
But I've seen the show in this case, and I didn't like it. So
yes, I know. But that doesn't, just because you don't like the show doesn't mean there's not ideas in that Connor can't compare it to.
I'm not saying it can, but I'm just it made me think of the show, and I have this reaction to it. It's like, ugh.
I get what you're saying, Connor. Even though I haven't read the book or seen the show, I'm familiar enough with the concept of the different new gods. Like isn't the internet represented as a god at one point?
I can't remember internet specifically, but like television is like one of the big ones.
Yeah. Connor keeps taking books I'm enjoying and trying to compare them to things that are bad, and it's annoying.
I'm sorry that I have relevant ideas.
Sorry that I'm cultured.
Yeah. I'm sorry I bring a different viewpoint to this show that you just don't
God
have.
Forbid.
Well, there's many viewpoints I can appreciate. Yours is just not one of them.
Connor.
Anyone
else said it, he would have been like, "That's a very good point, Connor." But you're like, "Stop ruining things I don't like."
Do you know what? I need to make like a shirt that's just the 9-panel grid, and it's like all these people. I'm like, I respect you. I respect you. Not you. Respect you. Just a picture of Connor on that one in the middle.
Yeah.
It's like Tom Taylor, Ram V, not you.
Is that the one where each panel has like a different? It's like, I respect your ideas and what you bring. And in the middle, it's the big not you.
So final page, because obviously, like, he is so convinced that Swamp Thing's been dealt with. And the final page, of course, it's almost at the end. I mean, mild spoilers here, I guess, for the end of a certain movie named The Iron Giant. But this reminded me a lot of the end of The Iron Giant. No,
it does. It's just the way that you did. Not to go spoilers, but the Iron Giant.
I don't think it's spoiled too much. I don't think that ruins the movie for you. But like just the eye opening at the end here.
It doesn't spoil it as much as every pop culture reference trying to give into a weapon, and that's clearly not the point of that movie.
Oh, well, yeah, I mean, that's a fair point. So it's just him in the snow waking up, and it's like so like the Swamp Thing lives, unsurprisingly, but.
And it's specifically the idea that it's hard to kill an idea.
Yes.
It's a big theme.
Which I mean, we're going to tie it back into the whole bomb being buried underneath London. That whole thing that all the negativity was feeding it, and
It's funny that this issue brings back the creature from the first 2 issues, and then this idea of an idea ties it back into that 5th issue. So it's kind of interesting that some of those what felt like relatively standalone 2-parters or single issues early on are now thematically being brought back in towards the end of this. And now obviously we get these final 6 issues to go, and we'll see what he does with them. But really good stuff. Can I just point out on not the final page, but the 2-page spread before, the one in the autopsy room with all the purple light, that panel on the top right, I'm like, that's Willem Dafoe.
Sure.
Willem Dafoe should play this guy if they do a movie of this. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, if he's not busy being Green Goblin, then sure.
Why is that a factor?
Matt.
Why is that a factor?
Well, I'm just saying, if they're going to ever adapt this, I'm sure it'll have to be when he's done being Green Goblin, that's all.
I'm pretty sure he's done being Green Goblin.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure actors can take multiple roles in the same year. I mean, it's pretty normal for them to do that.
I'm willing to bet it's a 1-movie thing.
Which page there, Pete? You said before the autopsy?
Second to last page. The
last page
spread with the autopsy.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Matt agrees. Okay, good.
That sees it. We got there in the end.
Oh dear. Yes, very good. It's a very, very good issue. I look forward to its return in March.
Yeah.
So, yeah, love all the things it's playing with. I like the general feeling of just there's kind of this like mythological feeling to Swamp Thing when it's done right that really appeals to me in a way that a lot of other mythology stuff doesn't appeal to me. I guess it's just something because it's like based on feelings and elemental stuff, and it's just
yet when I compare it to things that are dealing with mythology, I get shit on.
Because he didn't like the show, Connor.
Yeah, I don't like the show.
Just he didn't like this show. It's not that he has a problem with the ideas. He didn't like how the ideas were presented.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Thank you, Matt. Not you.
Yeah, which is still a hilarious statement, though, because you are proving Connor's point that it can work in ways, and just. I
don't feel like I've proved Connor's point at all.
I think you did, because you're talking about mythologies, and usually you don't like mythologies, but when handled a certain way, you do.
Yes, but mythologies can be very different. Like the mythology he's talking about is very different from the mythology in this.
One was about the mythology of ideas.
Yeah.
Aye, but like with gods though.
Yeah, but that's what the whole point of them being American.
The idea of them is they are the gods are ideas made literal.
Right. Like Zeus is the idea of the sky and everything. Because it's vast and all-encompassing.
Yeah, which makes them dull characters, because...
No, and Aphrodite is the idea of love and admiration and obsession. And Ares and Athena are both ideas of war, strategic and savage, primal, you know? They still work, you know? We're going to get to Viking stuff. Tyr is like the idea of laws and justice and fairness. You know, that's how he loses a hand to Fenris, because he was the only one that was fair to the creature. You know, these are all, you know, gods are nothing if not ideas. And if, you know, from Justice League Dark, which I know you stopped on, me and Connor kept going with Ram-V, very much a thread through that too.
It's just like, it's literally what mythology is. It's ideas given form.
I'm not really using it in that way. I'm talking more about the mythology of like the world that's created around things.
You've never reminded me of Lazo from What We Do in the Shadows. Yes, but that's not what I mean. By the way, have you seen the new season yet?
I am like 7 or 8 episodes into it, so I've got a couple left. The Atlantic City episode was like, Mr. Sinatra, I don't recall you being as Chinese as this. And then he just goes, ring a ding ding, I stand corrected.
I was just saying, Lazo is quite the turn throughout that season, and it's very enjoyable.
Oh,
and
it's so great.
Maybe you could have that turn one day too.
Yes, so Yes, gods are ideas, but not all ideas are good. So I rest my case.
And not all gods are good. So there you go.
None of them are good.
Most of them are terrible. That's kind of the point.
All right, cool. Let's rate so we can move on to the next book.
Yes, Matt, what are you giving Swamp Thing issue 10?
8.5.
Connor?
I'm gonna give it another 9.
Yeah, I'm happy to give this a 9. This was excellent. So that's...
And ruin this one for you then.
I mean, you tried your best, but...
Try harder next time.
I'm not letting you get to me. No, it's not happening. So yes. Green Lantern issue 9, Geoffrey Thorne writing with Tom Raney and Marco Santucci on the art. Matt, the only one who read this, so take it away.
Why do I do this to myself? Because I really care about the Joe story. But to get to the Joe story, we have to go through the John story, who I feel like that this doesn't fit John Stewart as a character by trying to make him ascended. Because for me, he's always the most down to earth of the Lanterns. Kyle's the dreamer. Kyle's the dreamer. Guy's the hothead. Hal's the who's ever writing him puts on a new one. He could be the leader or the Joker or whatever. But John was always almost like the conscience of the Green Lantern. And here, putting him in, I get why Thorne's putting him in the story with the New Gods. But they're adding a level of predestination that I do not like. So it starts with John on this planet where the dude on the Metron chair is sitting, and we find out that he is on the Lightbringer world. He takes out all of the angel-looking dudes, and through the one god, what's his name, Lonar, finds out that this guy is a new god, but he's a student of High Father and Metron, and that basically he's trying to bring upon the Lightbringer in order to swing balance or some weird god shit. So the stuff that Pete doesn't like about gods in mythology, it shows up in here just because. But I don't know exactly what the new gods represent. And John even brings that up when he's talking to Lonar, where he's like, I thought you guys were just superpowered aliens. And Lonar's like, oh, there's more to us than that. But John, because he is ascended, is basically able to use the Green Lantern energy through his body in order to destroy this Lightbringer that they're trying to build. And when he goes kind of supernova, he ends up having a flashback to high school where he's standing up for the kids that are getting bullied, and his teacher's telling him that the world needs people like you because you'll stand up for those that need it, because you can use your size and strength to intimidate or bully, but instead you use it to protect. But as he's saying this, the whole crowd starts to turn into Guardians, and the teacher ends up being Ganthet. And so, Lonar, the story's telling him about who this guy is. His name is Isak. He's the one that put the bounty on the rings because he believes that the Green Lanterns are throwing off the balance because they are immune to the conversion that he's trying to bring the Lightbringers with. So, the people that they're picking up are kind of going into this trance. You can't do that with people that are meant to be Green Lanterns, right? Because they have that force of will. And so John ends up using this ascendancy power to destroy this Lightbringer with Lonar. And Isak gets upset and says, what have you brought on? And by him destroying the Lightbringer form, it ends up bringing up a God storm. All that stuff it's whatever. But then we get to the science cells with Joe, and she's interrogating the magic chick. What's her name? It's weird. Let me find it on here. Shoot. They really make it. Oh, it's Eurydian. right? So she's talking that, that they were, you can put us in these cells, but you're never going to silence us. And Joe starts using her, experience as a cop in a unfamiliar world to get the information out of her. And she, talks about they've been around since Oa. So he goes, Oa was still a pool before we dropped our pebbles in. We're here to watch everything ripple. And that she's from this magical world, and they just don't understand that the magic was meant not to be contained by the Green Lanterns, and that this is what the Rogue Guardians knew, that, that in order to perceive, get the balance. What?
I saw Pete laughing at me, struggling with the headphones.
I was hoping he was going to snap himself in the face with the headphones.
Gotcha.
It didn't happen, though.
Gotcha. I thought he was
see
giving me a weird
how
look.
awkward it is.
I'm not going to lie. I was kind of hoping you were going to notably hurt yourself when you were trying to get up or sit down.
I had
Gotcha.
to go get more painkillers because, yeah.
But yeah, so she talks about how they talked about the arrow that killed Koyos, and that basically through that Koyos sacrificed himself. He was the Rogue Guardian. That they knew that when he died, they would put his body into the power battery, and effectively he turned himself into a bomb to transcend into something else, because that these beings of magic are way more powerful than anything the Green Lanterns could ever dream to be. She says evil as the rest, yet finally able to see their crime and hungry to erase it, because Koyos had stole stuff from them. They promised to return their magic, so we made the arrow. So Joe figures all this out. She ends up burning through her power and ends up crashing back to where Kelly and Simon are. And there's a huge art mistake in that Simon's there, and Pete, if you remember, he has the robo arm. They're calling him Broken Lantern or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
These last 2 pages, that's completely undone, and he's just regular Simon without the robo arm and stuff. So
don't worry, they'll fix it for the trade.
Ta-da!
Yeah. Right. so they made a deal.
So someone just magicked his arm back. This thing.
Yeah. Right.
That's all.
So she lands. Her power's dissipating. And she says that they made some kind of a deal. I don't know, to something to do with magic. And she goes, no, Koyos is alive. He's holed up in the Shadow Vault, but he's coming back. And as she says that, there's this loud booming voice says, I am Koyos. I have returned to Oa. And he is like merged with the power battery, has like a tentacle creature as a crown, and says your time is done. And it ends with Simon, going, oh shit. But it's written in the, fun expletive font. And yeah, next it says the Anti-Guardian. This book keeps getting weirder, and not in a good way. Like, I was enjoying all the Joe stuff a lot, and just to find out you have these Rogue Guardians that have made some deal, I'm sure, to do with the Starheart, with magic, and going to their planet and promising them that they'll take control. And that's very typical Green Lantern. The other half, with John being this person that's meant to ascend and use his power and whatnot, like, yeah, that's very John Stewart, but at the same time, it kind of takes his down to earthness away from him. Like, if he was always meant to be this like new god, where I almost feel like he's meant to be the Slightbringer, like they're kind of doing the torchbearer thing that they did with Kyle way back when, that he's going to be the one to bring the Green Lantern power back, or whatever it is. That's reasonable. It's so weird. And when this started, him getting lost out in space and being so excited that they were creating these side teams, right? And we're going to have this kind of new order. Now to become this weird God-focused story with magic guardians, it's quite a turn. And it's not necessarily bad, but I don't enjoy reading it. And I think it's my last issue just because I can't, like, I'm not enjoying reading this anymore. So yeah, I'll give this a 6. It's not bad, but it's not my thing.
That's a shame. Yeah, I was scrolling some Twitter stuff, and there, people were talking about the legendary wrestler that is Hook now, who debuted last night, and someone so they've changed the name of the finisher that Taz used to use to Red Rum.
Yeah.
And someone responded to the tweet from Taz saying, "I just realized that Red Rum is murder backwards," and it made me laugh. I suspect it's not true. I suspect they already knew, but
yeah.
Either that, or they've not seen The Shining.
Right.
This is my guess. It was a quick tidbit, Connor. Quick tidbit.
I didn't say anything.
We're ready to move on. I can see it in your face, though.
Connor would definitely be a hooker.
Well, that's a sentence.
Yeah.
But would anyone pay?
Well, I'm just saying, the fans of Hook are called hookers.
Are they? Okay.
I think Connor would definitely be a hooker.
I don't know what this means.
Hey, what's next?
It means you're a fan of the killer from I Know What You Did Last Summer. That's what it means.
Yeah.
So yes, that was Green Lantern. Up next, Arkham City, The Order of the World, issue 3. Dan Waters with Dani on art. It's been an interesting little book so far, and this issue goes deeper into what the 10-Eyed Man is planning. We obviously have Joy still working with him, questioning her own sanity the more she is putting up with his shit, including the fact
the
that
map is working.
Yeah, her apartment smells like absolute crap because he keeps having like weird body parts and stuff and pans, and it's just making everything stink, as you imagine it might.
Specifically like an abattoir, she says. Yeah. So it's all that raw meat.
I mean, that's like, there's very few worse things I can think smell-wise than like going past an abattoir. Like, it stinks. Like, it genuinely is disgusting, like going past.
I don't know what that is.
Abattoirs where they kill all the animals for your meat.
Oh yeah, there's a pig farm by a local high school we used to have to play football at, and that smell would come. And I don't know if they slaughtered the pigs there, if that was just the pig smell.
Yeah, I guess the more generic term would be slaughterhouse, maybe?
Yeah. Doesn't say.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I think it's a much nicer
I
word.
live fairly near one, so I'm almost used to the smell at this point.
That's dark.
Yeah.
Connor's going to do the next Texas Chainsaw Massacre because he's used to the abattoir smell.
Used to the smell of death.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you've got this stuff. The detective obviously is in hospital because he got shot at the end of the last issue. And I'll be honest, they started talking about the Red Hood or the Red Hooded figure, and I actually couldn't remember if it was Red Hood or Azrael. I was like, was it Azrael? I think it was Azrael. And obviously later on in the issue it confirmed it was, but I actually for a second went, or was it Red Hood? Because it wouldn't surprise me if it was Red Hood.
Red Hood would have worked on some levels, but I think Azrael is more interesting for this story.
No, he is. It was just
power of belief.
It was more just like a memory thing because it's been a month and
and you hear someone about Red Hoods and you're like,
So she talks about Terry Man stinking up the place, and he's got this plan, and sure enough, we see more examples of the inmates being where they are on this map if you put the map of the asylum over the city. So we get more of that. We get this great thing where it's Dr. Phosphorus is like next to like an apartment, and he's having an effect on the couple who live in it, and her hair's starting to fall out and he's losing his teeth and they don't know why, and he's looking through like a hole in the wall like Norman Bates, just like, oh, I guess that's my bad. I guess I'm doing that. Yeah,
they're getting radiation poisoning because the guy that lives next to him is radioactive.
Which is pretty dark when you stop and think about it.
Well, because Dr. Joy is talking about, re-mainstreaming these people from Arkham that maybe didn't belong in Arkham, but they also can't be in the regular world, no fault of their own, right? Like, it's not like Phosphorus is trying to hurt these people.
Yeah.
Phosphorus is just hiding by the look of it. He's not actively doing anything.
Yeah, what I kind of dig, so they go to the park or somewhere near the park, and they find Grundy, right? That's who Terry Man's looking for. And sure enough, his map was right again. I like the detail here from Joy where she kind of like, I'm just realizing that I'm standing with two people alone with no protection, because she says that, usually whenever I've met Grundy before, there's been like reinforced glass like between them, and she's out here alone with these two like people who could easily kill her, and it's maybe like dawning on her. But it goes into this backstory because it talks about Grundy being alive, much longer than anyone else, and talks about how Gotham was kind of based. This prophet led people to Gotham back in the day when it was first founded, and his prophecies were very convenient. His visions were convenient because it was all, we're going to prosper, we're going to build a city, we're going to do all this stuff. But the second he sort of changed and said, no, now the visions are actually kind of bad, like bad things might happen here. Oh, that's an inconvenience. We don't want to listen to that. So instead, they hang him from a tree, and it's almost like the city was built on this like murdered prophet who told them that bad things were going to happen here. So it's kind of almost like there's almost a curse on the entire city. And that's why there's so many messed up people in Gotham, is because of this. So it's playing into its own little like mythology that's building with the spookiness of it.
And it's building this mythology with Ten Man as well. The idea that sure we're like, okay, he's a bit on the insane side. That's why he was in Arkham. But there does seem to be something to it. His map is working. He did predict someone was going to show up at the apartment. He ripped
someone's jawbone out with his bare hands and no tools.
Oh, yeah. We're not saying it should be reintegrated into society, man.
No. But no, what Connor's saying, there's something about him. There's
even
dark
that
magic.
But I can explain that as like, he has like weird powers, right? But this here is like, no, there's something to his actual like rituals and his prophecies as well. Because he talks about how he had to get out because someone was coming to the apartment, and and then Azrael shows up, right?
Right.
It's like he is right on things, and that are interesting as to how he's right.
Yeah, it's almost a trope actually. Is you have someone who sounds like complete crazy, but if you listen to them, occasionally they actually say things that does actually pan out. So it's sort of playing with that trope. But I really like this idea that the city's built on this corpse, and it goes into the origin of Arkham Asylum, and Amadeus Arkham went crazy, and that's sort of part of the story. That's part of this, and it feels like they want to try and get rid of the ghost or the curse of Amadeus Arkham, and to do it, they need the skull of this prophet from back in the day, back in the dawn of Gotham. And they're going to go into Gotham Park to get it, and the Joy's like, hey, if you get seen by the public, like, the police are going to swarm this place, like, in seconds. So
you're right.
I have to go and do it. So this middle-aged woman, as she points out, has to go into the park and just start digging a hole next to this tree, like a crazy person. So, like, I really don't... It's funny, like, I think this book... Like, with both issue 2 and 3, I've had this thing where when I've started the issue, I've struggled to maybe remember exactly what we were doing last issue, but it always completely grabs me as I get into it, and then by the time I get to the end.
It's got a tone unlike anything else that DC are publishing right now. It's so creepy, ethereal, but like...
Yeah, I was going to say, it feels like a horror book, but not in the way, like, it's scary. Like, definitely like a Vertigo from what I've heard about.
It feels like it could be a Lynch movie. In that way of just on the tone of like it's still technically this is in the real world, but it's almost a little bit adjacent.
I think I would probably pivot and say it feels like something like Prince of Darkness to me, like a Carpenter Doom.
Now we're talking with
end of the world kind of thing.
Because I was gonna pull a Pete and go, no, it can't be Lynch because I don't like Lynch. So
I just
Matt, I'm sorry that Connor brought up a better director than Steven Spielberg, but you're just going to have to accept
it. I'm still waiting for him too, because it's not David Lynch. I'll tell you that much.
Speaking of Spielberg, I'm looking forward to seeing West Side Story soon.
I am not
all 2
it's not
2 hours and
happening.
36 minutes.
It is long, but I mean,
it's not happening.
Okay? What movie isn't long this year? God damn it!
It's just
Venom. Venom is the only movie that's not long this year, apparently.
Yeah, it's not.
Didn't see that.
Well, of course not. Why would you?
Yeah, but Grundy. But yeah, no. There's a sense of like darkness, but not quite horror, where it's trying to, it's not trying to be scary, but there's a sense of otherworldliness.
It's more foreboding. Like, there's something sinister about everything, and like there's no hope, and like it's the right story to tell with these types of characters, and it's a really interesting spin to put on this, and the idea that one of these villains is trying to like beat the spirit of Amadeus Arkham, who's like coming after them, because
it's whether or not do we even believe this spirit exists.
And Azrael, of course, shows up and tries to attack. It actually kills Grundy, and obviously Grundy will come back because they point that out.
He kills Grundy.
Yeah,
that's what he does.
But he does behead him. We do get to see him behead Grundy. and then he comes in, and Ten-Eyed Man has to like sort of strangle him and all that. And then at the ending, I actually was a little bit confused here because they look up and they refer to this as Amadeus Arkham, but I was just thinking it looked kind of like Phosphorus again because of the color.
The same.
Yeah,
and it was only when I was like, this is a completely different location.
Yeah.
Right? That I was like, oh yeah, okay, I guess it is someone else entirely. Because I also thought it was Phosphorus at first.
And it even says next the Phosphorus fires and it burns, right? And that's like that's within this panel of like him in this green color. So,
yeah, but I see that this could be like a glowing green, like of a ghost.
Yeah, that's what it is, right?
Yeah.
But I had to like second guess it because it was so similar to Phosphorus's look earlier.
Yeah, and it made me question. I was like, because I was like, okay, this is Amadeus, and I went, oh, I guess that wasn't Phosphorus earlier. I guess that was Amadeus, and then I went and looked. I was like, no, it's actually very different. It's a very different green.
Yeah,
when you actually go back and compare it.
When you compare them, it is. But not only does it make sense in the context of that scene that it's Phosphorus, because the whole point is that there's radiation poisoning, is that, again, the next time text clearly is indicating that Phosphorus is going to play a role in the next issue.
I was a little confused by that as well, but I don't even think it's necessarily a fault of anything that the book does wrong. I think it's just weird associations. It's maybe the choice of design on Arkham.
I would just say that the solution to this is to not have your ghost have a green tint. Like, go with a blue tint or something. Just make it different.
Unless there is a possibility that it's actually important and that ties into Phosphorus somehow next issue.
Okay, sure. If that's the case, then
you'll kind of forgive it a little bit more.
Fine, yeah. But it's still a little conflicting in the moment, just to like...
It is.
Because it made me like sort of think about who it was in a way that I don't think was smooth.
Same. It's probably my only real complaint with this issue is that moment.
Yeah, the art's still obviously consistent with before. It's got the spooky kind of almost cut. I mean, it's not, but it almost feels like the blacks are like cut out and put on top of other colors.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
I love the way Azrael is in this book with that that bright, vivid red against pure black, and there's no hard lines that cut off. It's just like there's no shading gradient between them. It's just the one or the other.
Yep.
On his weird cape with all the ribbons.
Yeah.
Right too. Like it makes for a like he cuts a figure.
Yeah. No, it looks great.
Yeah, looks good. All this like Gotham, like, because obviously we've had a lot of stories over the year that have, Scott Snyder did it a lot in his Batman run about talking about the history of Gotham, and we've had a lot of these things over the years. But this is like looking at it through a very specific lens that's sort of tied into almost like a, I don't want to say a Lovecraftian, but just like a horror that's bigger than we can comprehend, that's been lingering this entire time, and this is like. Only the craziest minds in Gotham can even like begin to like think about it and comprehend it, because all the sane people just can't even start to think about it.
You didn't want to call it Lovecraftian, then you described exactly what Lovecraftian is.
Yeah.
Okay, sure. Right.
I was thinking we're cracking a lot of references for comparisons this week.
Aye, but I guess I didn't have a specific Lovecraftian thing to compare it to, so I.
No, but that's to me that's usually what it like a sense of dread also.
Yeah.
Accompanies, and there's that's in here.
I guess
compared it to Prince of Darkness, isn't that Carpenter's like take on Lovecraft?
No, it's more Myth of Madness is just taking Lovecraft. I mean, I guess it kind of is too, but
too confused.
I mean, I guess the reason why I sort of second guess myself though is because I feel like the backstory here is a bit more defined than I think of as Lovecraftian stories being. They tend to be a bit more ethereal and like vaguer. Whereas this is a bit more like, no, we have this backstory. We have like we're solidifying it a bit more.
It's all in the sense there was a holy man with visions, but where those visions came from, what the visions of doom were, all that's still pretty vague.
True. I guess it's just the plot details just feel a little different to me. But I mean, sure.
I hope so. That's called originality.
There's a reason why I thought of Lovecraft in the first place, but there's also kind of a reason why I sort of doubted it a little bit as a comparison. But either way, there you go. That's Arkham City Order of the World issue 3. Matt, what are you giving the book?
8.5.
Connor.
Yeah, I'm going to go with 8.5 as well. Would have been the 9 if not for that very final panel.
Yeah, I'm also going to go 8.5, so I guess a clean, simple sweep of 8.5s from us. That's cool. Next up, World of Krypton, issue 1. Mark Russell. Sorry, no, I'm to the next line. Sorry, ignore me. Robert Venditti writing with Michael Avon Oeming on the art. So this is a Krypton story set, as we find out in the issue, around the time of Kara's birth. So it's it's not right before they launch Kal-El. It's about
a few years.
About 10, 13, whatever age Kara typically is when they send her off.
Yeah.
So yes, that's where we are. So I kind of hated this. I'll just put that out there.
It's gonna end up being not my favorite of the week. Like it's kind of superfluous because we kind of all know the story of Krypton, and just I don't know what Venditti, who I genuinely like, I don't know how he's gonna be able to tell it differently, because we've gotten the kind of heroic Zod before, right? Like we've had that turn where him and Jor-El were friends before, what we traditionally know, and the whole idea of Krypton not listening to the Science Council and dooming itself is very well worn.
Yeah.
And so just to add some interpersonal family stuff into this, I don't know.
And I don't know if like these characters might all be pulls from like past stories. They're not all original creations. But like bringing in like this extra cousin of Jor-El and his brother, bringing in like all these other characters that are in the story, I just found myself, I don't give a crap about any of you. Like I really don't.
Well,
I'm just gonna say I think I enjoyed this a lot more than both of you two, and not. But
I mean, I said I think I hated it. I mean, it's a bit hard not to.
Yeah, I definitely enjoyed it more. But not that I think it's amazing, especially the writing. Like everything you've just said, I kind of agree with. That it's this well-worn kind of repeatable thing that it's nothing interesting. I don't know how it's going to tell it any differently, or if it even will. I don't disagree with any of that. That's all true. But I love Oeming's art. I think it looks gorgeous, and I hate
it. I hate it.
Thank you, Pete.
I hate this art.
I'm not so for a long time. This is one of those things that's like, as a comic fan, you're supposed to, it's Oeming. He did powers with Bendis. I've never liked that style. And like, if you like it, cool. I don't think it's.
I'll be honest, I read like 3 pages of this and I almost didn't finish it. And the only reason why I kept reading is because I felt guilty that I wouldn't have read enough books because I didn't grab One Star Squadron. So I felt compelled to finish it just to sort of like okay, I gave it a proper chance. Yeah. But like I knew kind of early on that I did not like this art, and I wasn't liking the faces. I wasn't liking like not for me.
It's very stylized for a book that I feel like would have actually benefited from a house style.
Yeah. Oh, not even house style.
If this was house style, this would have been the most generic, boring book.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think house style, but I think this is far too cartoony stylized for a story that's meant to deal more with like betrayal, intrigue, and serious issues, and like all that.
Which he's done with Powers, right? Which I understand that's kind of the vibe they're going for here. But it just, I don't feel it works on Krypton.
Like Jor-El goes to see his brother because they're going to like celebrate Kara being born, right? So it's like a
christening, basically.
Yeah, kind of, basically, yeah. Right? And Zor-El, right? He's got this like goofy Justin Bieber haircut, and he looks like a teenager who's trying to be hip.
Right.
And I'm just like, what is this?
He has a younger brother, they point out.
I mean, true, yeah.
So,
but he doesn't have to look a douchebag.
Yeah, true.
Maybe he's a douchebag.
My
main
problem is the bad guy is named Kal-El.
Cruella de Vil.
And I was just like, Venditti, all right, like let me check before I criticize.
Yeah, so like the half of it, I mean, other than the science tease, the scientist who discovers something's like killing some animals out somewhere. Other than that, most of this is at this party. It's the interpersonal stuff with the cousin who's a bit of a shithead who turns out to be kind of behind the assassins.
I love that, like the art when he shows up first, where he's there in the cape with the big collar, and he's there with a big shitting grin, putting his hand on the shoulder. Like I love that stuff. Like again, I don't think the writing's amazing. I think the writing it's not bad. It's just fine, but the art just man, I love it.
Okay, so Kal-El goes back to Action Comics 297.
Okay.
February 1963. So I'm not going to hang that on Venditti. He's just playing with established character names and whatnot.
I won't hang the name on him, but I just don't generally like the voices or the characterization of the characters in this.
No, yeah.
And that includes him.
That doesn't work. That doesn't work either. But, I wouldn't have been as annoyed when they say, oh, your cousin Crew. And then I was like, oh, shit, his name's Kal-El. Come on.
I at least appreciate they had the restraint never to actually put Kal-El to make it like I think that was a very intentional choice not to put that there, so you didn't spend too much time thinking about that.
I just can't wait until the real plot of this book is revealed that he wants to get like 101 Dalmatians.
Yeah. But yeah, I like the stuff with the scientist at the beginning with the thought beast and something is killing them. She kind of realizes that there was nothing wrong. They just lost the will to live, and they're almost like the precursor to Krypton.
Yeah, it's just like the first sign about a decade early that like things are starting to go awry. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that much, and seeing how venerated Jor-El seems to be, it's going to be like, well, what happened to make them not listen to him? Because he seems to be like a big name on Krypton. This whole House of El, the fact that the cousin wants to take him and Zor out, and then he can, clear the way for the House of El or whatever. And that they're buddies with Zod, who's back from which again, this is all just stuff that I love as a continuity nerd, but he's talking about the Dominators attacking Daxam and repelling that invasion, and that's where he's coming straight from. So again, what happens in those years that that makes him want to take over Krypton?
Yeah, what happens in Daxam stays on Daxam.
Yeah, it's true.
No, I mean he's wanting to retire. Jor-El doesn't want a kid, so there's all these things that all these things are going to change in the next 10 years of this story. Maybe even closer to 15, because I think Kara's meant to be more like a full-on teenager.
Well, she goes depending on when she was either the babysitter or she was still at least 10 years older that remembers baby.
I guess it just depends. If she arrived when she's like 16, like was she 16 when she left, or was a couple of years in the ship? Did she age a bit on the journey?
Because I did like that. I think that was from the Batman Superman run from Jeff Loeb that she was meant to be, his caretaker, and then her ship got lost.
Oh yeah, that's just been the case since then. Yeah, but
I always liked that
her ship got
they added to it.
Yeah, the ship got delayed, and because of that, Superman was already grown up when she arrived, and instead he's now older than her. That's just been like what they've done every interpretation since then.
Yeah, but it's like depending on, was she 16? Was she 10? Like, what's the?
I never got the impression that she aged significantly in the journey. I always got the impression that's the age she left as. So
I always knew it was like 14 to 50 when she's. I think a lot of times she's not quite 16. I think because they tend to play her slightly younger when she first arrives.
I'm just thinking of admittedly it's the New 52 I'm thinking of, but I'm just thinking she was maybe about that age when she arrived then. But I mean, I'm just ballparking.
Yeah.
Right.
But I think we're all in that same range of 14 to 17 sort of.
Yeah. Well, she's old enough in the comics that she goes to high school, right?
Yeah.
So
I think the reason why I said 13 the first time, because I think in the TV show she was 13. I think they mentioned that in the show.
That's what's tripping me up too, because she's a little bit younger than we think traditionally. Because she grew up with Alex and whatnot. But
well, obviously that's different because in the show she grows up first and then becomes Supergirl, rather than and whereas in the comics she typically just as Supergirl almost right away, or if not right away, by the end of an arc she'll be Supergirl.
Right. Yeah. So, but so there's a lot of stuff here that I can see what they're doing with, but I didn't really enjoy reading it.
Yeah, I didn't enjoy reading that. I was kind of just like, I'm just getting through this so I can talk about it, and I wasn't into it at all. So easy drop for me, this one after issue 1. I'm not interested in reading issue 2 of this.
Real quick, Connor, what do you like about Oeming's art?
I think it's the pacing of it. I think I really like the pacing. I know that I can see why the faces aren't for everyone, especially I don't think the faces are too bad when it's close-ups on faces. I get it when it's wider shots and you see them in contrast with the full body. I think that's where they look a little bit more wrong, so to speak. For me, it's the tone, the pacing. I really like the bold, clean lines, kind of really thick, heavy inks. I think it's good, just good for that stuff. I think it looks fun. I know maybe that's not necessarily the tone that you want, but I mean, I like it. I just like the experience of reading it. I just think it looks nice and enjoyable to read through, even when the story is whatever.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think it's just one of those things that just doesn't. It's never worked for me, and I've been afraid to say that. So I don't want.
No, I think it's very stylized. So I think it's
revoked.
something you like or hate.
Yeah,
it's very
I've
much
not
that.
seen a lot of Oeming's art. Like, I've seen a little bit of it, and like, when he's done like a special hero there or something, or maybe an anthology story. So I didn't remember him. So I went into this with no expectations. If anything, I was expecting the art that I saw on the cover, because the cover's quite nice, and then my disappointment, the crushing disappointment of opening,
Oh no!
I'd be like, oh, it's like this.
He's like giving it back to a shop, going like, the art's broken. It doesn't match the front.
Yeah, I don't know who did the cover.
Honestly, I actually
it's fine. I actually vastly prefer the Oeming art.
This is slightly tangential, but I remember there was I think there's a learning curve for new comic readers, where I think when you start reading comics for the first time, you expect the art on the inside to match the cover, and obviously that's like only true maybe a third of the time, maybe. So, because I remember introducing other people to comics and them being like, "Oh, this cover looks really cool," and then open it and going, "Wait, why is this art completely different?" And it's like, well, because the cover artist isn't always the same as the interior artist. That's just the way it is. But like, it is actually a trip up for like new people, as they always expect the art on the cover to be the same as the inside.
I do actually think the main cover should usually be the regular artist.
Yeah. Oh,
yes.
Especially on an issue 1.
Yeah.
I think it's actually something you should do.
Because it's almost like an advert for the book, so you should really be representing what's in the book. And
that's why you've got variants to do whatever. Like, variants, I think, are absolutely fair game. Have anything you want.
Oh, for sure, yeah. Admittedly, explaining variants to new comic readers is also a bit of a challenge, but that's neither here nor there.
You're gonna pay more for different art, but everything is the same. But yeah, so the cover artist is Miko Suayan, who didn't they do the Harley book? Harley Joker, that was like the Fincher-esque one.
Oh, sounds right.
Criminal Sanity, was that one?
Yeah,
that's the one.
Yeah, that sounds right. And
that's the cover artist.
I think the art on the cover, it's fine. It's a perfectly decent cover. But I prefer the interior art by orders of magnitude.
Are you sure your eyes didn't get broken along with the arm?
I can't be certain of that, but I don't know. It pops. It pops.
It pops.
I also, as well, I think, as much as I like Oeming's pacing and the bold lines and the inks, Faladi's colors, I think, are doing a huge job as well of just all the vibrancy that it brings to it. That's a big part of what I like about this book.
I got nothing to add. We can wrap this one up.
Yeah.
All right, we give it a Matt.
I'm gonna give this a 5.5.
Connor?
That's 6.5.
Straight 5 for me. I felt nothing.
Given that you started this by saying you hated it, that's
kind of hated it. Okay, I mean, like, it's not complete trash. This is not. It's not like I'm reading like a Layfeld book. Like, there's layers to this.
Yeah.
So I'll go with a 5. I just thoroughly uninteresting. None of the family drama stuff was like, okay, I don't care about any of this crap you're adding to this mythology. So there you go. World of Krypton. 1-star Squadron issue 1. Mark Russell writing with Steve Lieber on the art. Well, you two tried this one, so take it away.
Yeah. So the premise is Red Tornado has set up a company called Heroes for You. It's where if we're being generous, F-listers can sign up on the app to be hired for small little superhero gigs.
Yeah, and part of it is Red Tornado are struggling with the fact that he was kind of a big leaguer, yet it never worked out for him, right? Is that he's able to team up with Superman and Batman and the Justice League, but for whatever reason, he always ends up down with the Z-listers, and might as well try to profit off of it. And the title gets its name from the fact that people tend to leave 1-star Yelp reviews, so they're the 1-star Squadron. This is a typical Mark Russell book. It really reminded me of the Wonder Twins, to where there is this sense of there's a heart to it that, right underneath all the disappointment Tornado feels, he can't just let this old guy that's been abandoned into his office go. He's got to try to do right by him, and that's the main crux of this issue.
Yeah, because this guy, he's an ex-hero of some sort. We learn he was gangbuster.
Yep.
But he's clearly got dementia or something along those lines, and he has been left in a care home or a hospital.
Yeah.
And the hospital staff are like, well, we don't really want to deal with this guy. He was a hero. Let's go just stick him outside this place, and they can deal with him. And Red Tornado was like, you know, he's too much of a. At the end of the day, he's too much a hero to leave him alone.
Mm-hmm.
So he takes him home, and the wife's like, nope, not dealing with this because he's potentially a little bit dangerous.
We don't know. She's flat out says I don't know who he is.
Yeah, and he has a bit of a moment and smashes up a picture. And like, what if the kids were home? You know, it's something where she's like, I'm willing to put up with this until you bring it home, almost.
Mm-hmm.
So you know, Red was like, right, okay, I've got his name. Let's go to the last known address. You know, we'll go around try and find out where this guy can be. And he goes and knocks on the door, and the woman answers, "Is like, sorry, I just moved here. Maybe you know, we'll go talk to the realtor. Maybe they've got some information on, you know, who was here before that you can follow up on." And you have this moment where, you know, so they go to leave, and it just cuts to, you know, her. She's upstairs, and presumably this was his wife. And she's there. You know, all the pictures are on the wall, you know, of them, and she's just, you know, breaking down crying. Obviously, couldn't deal with actually looking after him anymore.
Yeah, and you get the vibe too that he was right. So he's a regular hero, and you get in his origin that he was a boxer on the come up, who his nickname was Ironhead for his ability to take a punch. But when a gang kills his trainer, that's where he becomes Gangbuster, and you just see him constantly taking headshots. And it's
and
almost
that's presumably what's caused this damage.
Right, and so, so we get this that, you know, he's a burden, even though he's not, right? It's a lot to take of, and that's where this kind of the heart of it goes, is that Red Tornado can't let this go, right? Well, I'm sure we'll find a way.
Obviously, there's lots of layers of the commentary going on here. I think this part here with the head is probably playing into sports athletes, kind of. Yeah. Obviously, in the last 5-10 years, that's kind of been a big thing of coming up of these ex-athletes suffering pretty serious head conditions, you know, long term because of things. Right. And this feels like, you know, okay, maybe we're kind of likening these lower tier superheroes to kind of those sorts of professional athletes.
It's the cost of doing what they do, and it's the unseen cost is what happens later. And throughout this too, we keep getting the how Red Tornado's first, you know, mission with the Justice League, he toppled the Royal Flush Gang, and we keep getting little hints in the background about a trial with the Royal Flush Gang, which I thought was pretty funny because it adds. So in between those super sad moments, there's that typical Mark Russell and even Steve Lieber sense of humor, and the Royal Flush Gang is one of them because they look in the background. If you read the Judge Deal's Royal Flush Gang 20 years, that basically the King of Spades says, like, as a monarch, our laws don't apply to him, but because Spades is in an actual place, the judge denies it. And Jack tries to say that he's a lower ranking member of the gang, therefore he can't be held responsible. But the judge counters that, oh no, you can't have a Royal Flush without a Jack, so you're just an equal part of this. You know, you don't have, it says here, without the Jack and the Royal Flush, all you have is an ace high. Just like, okay, well, thanks at least for breaking that up, you know. There's a B plot too going on with them trying to really make money as part of this Heroes to You, and in that you have Power Girl, Karen Starr, I'm gonna say, right, is
I'm assuming so,
she's trying to teach what's his name, Heckler, you know, about the power of sales and how good GI Robot is at being able to sell these, you know, online courses. They're called Squad Goals. But Heckler kind of calls her out for this, you know, and she's like, if you're so good, right, you're a Kryptonian, you have legit superpower, why are you working with us? And she hands him Maxwell Lord's book. And
like, it changed my life.
Yeah, and he brings up, he was like, I don't know.
It's essentially the answer is she succumbed to capitalism and gone, yeah,
Yeah.
being a hero on this world's great and all, but you need money or everything's worthless. So
Yeah.
I'm here to make money.
And Heckler's like, yeah, that kind of sounds like a cult. and yeah, so by the end of the issue, she's sitting at the corporate headquarters with a
presumably the
crew.
board.
Yeah, and basically they're gonna oust Red Tornado for Karen Starr. They want to know if they can count on her, and she says absolutely.
And they're saying, oh, you know, because we hear some of the stuff she's saying, oh, there's been concerns about him leaving early, and he's just kind of just doing his own thing. He's not really, you know, doing the stuff for the business. And we've seen all issue. Yes, technically he's not there for the business this issue, but he's there being the hero, right? Essentially, he's there being doing the right thing. And she's there. Oh, I smell a plot. You know, time to take over. And it's. I can see people maybe not liking, you know, taking Power Girl on this really cynical route, but I don't know. It's working for me here.
So I don't have a lot of love for Power Girl. Like, I know they made her Kryptonian, they solved all that stuff, but I always remember her as the CEO of Star, whatever that company was. So for them to use her like this here, like, it makes sense, you know.
It feels like business tycoon Power Girl,
right? And so just seeing that here and seeing what this book, you know, it's that Mark Russell point of view, and then you add this the Lieber kind of pacing with everything, where it's kind of like, yes, it's a superhero book, but it's also very just normal, kind of everyday. It's kind of the same vibe as Flintstones, you know?
Yeah.
Like, so Russell really gets those artists to kind of draw these spectacular things in the most normal way possible. Like, a lot of this issue is Red Tornado walking around escorting an elderly gangbuster. Like, he's not doing superhero-y whirlwind saves and whatnot, and doesn't mean that we won't see that, but, you know, Russell has a penchant for picking the right artist to handle this type of stuff, and I think he has a good one in Lieber here.
Yeah, Lieber's perfect for this style of book. Just the goofy, low-level heroes doing kind of everyday kind of slice of life stuff for a lot of it. Yeah. But it's obviously capable of drawing the superheroics as well when necessary. Yeah, no, this is a great fun book. It's a little bit of a shame it's only 6 issues instead of the 12 that we often get from the Russell stuff. But maybe we'll get a second season if we're lucky.
Yeah, maybe it'll end up being 1-star Squadron by the end. They've written that one, and we'll get there. But yeah, so I'm going to give it 7.5.
It's 8.5 for me.
There you go.
All right, cool. Well, we just got Patreon books left then. That's all the new books for the week. I've got one, Connor's got one. So I'm going to be talking about Animal Man, issue 14. And we kind of wrapped up the previous arc. Buddy's on his way home from Africa. So that's kind of where we are. And this is kind of a spooky issue. I actually wonder... the month that's listed here would imply this came out probably in like May time, but I was almost wondering if this was maybe like the Halloween issue, because it's got a really spooky vibe. We got Ouija boards, we got like mysterious figures disappearing into thin air, all sorts of stuff. So Maxine's out playing with one of the kittens, or maybe the only one that survived, possibly, and runs into like someone in silhouette, like someone by the tree. And it's like, hello, Maxine. And it all feels very intimidating. But the more you see like small glimpses of like the outfit and stuff and the way he's talking, it becomes pretty apparent this is clearly Animal Man, but old-aged from the future, and someone who is not like spent time with his family in a long time, because he says, I miss you. And whether that means that they've left him, they're all dead, I don't know. But it's very, foreboding. So it's a really sort of dark moment, and then like Ellen notices she's talking to someone, runs out after her and asks like who it was, and she's like, it was Daddy. And she's like, what? And she like, phones Buddy and is like, where are you? And he's like, I'm at the airport. So we have this spooky encounter. That's kind of the first part of the book. It's like, okay, interesting tease. We got some sort of Animal Man, Days of Future Past nonsense going on, whatever's happening. And then there's this weird dream sequence for some character that I don't think we know, that leads into like them sort of waking up and then like them being in San Francisco looking for Animal Man. And this stuff is, it's like he's reading a poem like in his dream, talking about how the ripples as the rain hits the water is like, you know, it's a symbol of the intricate order of theory. It's like the telepathic powers in comics are the cup and ring marks on a megalithic stone. Like it just like, you know, a bunch of fruity language basically, being really poetic. But I guess kind of meta, you know, it's starting to tease like this might be like a writer or something like that. Is kind of what I was getting from it. Yeah, like, you know, it's almost like he's being reflective and he starts critiquing that he's talking like this. He's like, you know, I'm taking like quotes from like the Oxford Dictionary, trotting out Nietzsche and Shelley and Shakespeare to dignify some old costume crap. Like I was almost, and it was the art as well as the end, because the color kind of drains from it. Or in fact, it's always been kind of mostly black and white in the background, with just a little bit of color, muted color on him. And at the end, when he goes to wake himself up, it's like he's like almost like an unfinished drawing waking up himself, but the version of himself he's waking up is in full color, which is where the meta part of it was kind of, I was like, is this like someone waking up their creation? Like in the comic, like is this someone waking? And maybe it's only because I know Grant Morrison's going to get super meta that I'm kind of jumping to this conclusion, but it kind of felt like that here in this scene. But he doesn't quite remember his dream when this character wakes up, and he's in a bed when he wakes up, and he's in a hotel room or something. And it's like, okay, nice. Then we have another like kind of dark scene where a character with the name of, what was the name here? I want to say it was Lennox. Like rings the doorbell, claims to be a, you know, like, would you like to look at these Bibles and talk about the Lord? One of these characters. And the woman tries to explain she's not religious, but then like this woman's daughter walks into the hallway and says, "Mommy's got a," and then the next page is this guy shooting the daughter through the chest and then shooting the mother in the head, and then the character just puts his gun back in his pocket and walks away. It's basically Sarah Connor and then like murder, but he never asks who they are. He just kills them, looks quite happy about it, and leaves. But it does feel very purposeful, like he's there for a hit. And like I don't know who this guy is. I don't know the context for this scene. So it's very much the start of a new arc, and that we're teasing some new things. So it's almost like hard to analyze a lot of this issue because it has a lot of new elements. And then we get to the Ouija board, which is Cliff and his two friends. One of them's brought over a Ouija board because he found it in his big brother's stuff, and it's like, hey, don't be a chicken, Cliff, and let's play. And as this is happening, there's like a weird moment where Ellen's like doing a painting in the other room, and her like jar of water paint or whatever like gets moved, and it's kind of just this little spooky moment where she looks over and she like senses someone in the room, and I think the implication is that it's future Buddy who's kind of like there and disappears, and she's starting to get freaked out. But the fact that this starts intercutting with the kids playing with the Ouija board, you're starting to, is it the ghost of future Buddy? I mean, admittedly, they only just started playing with the Ouija board, but it's like, what's going on here exactly? So the message that comes through the board, though, is the name Cliff, which obviously freaks him out, as you expect, and then just the numbers 9 and 27. And I immediately thought, oh, that sounds like a date. That sounds like the 27th of September. And sure enough, it's actually the like 2 pages later where Ellen like walks past the calendar in the kitchen, and it's on September. So you can say, oh, like, okay, so this is like near future, like this is later this month, whatever date we happen to be on. So it's teasing something for the future. But Ellen's so freaked out that she pulls a knife out the drawer and starts like creeping around, like she's worried someone's in the house. So it's a full-on horror issue of a comic, and despite the fact that this has got such a very pale blues in the background, it's very kind of bright colors. It's not a moody book in terms of its art or coloring. It still actually does a really good job of like getting the vibes across of like this being a spooky chapter in the story. And so, yeah, basically sees Maxine on the floor and then turns around and almost stabs Buddy as he walks in. He's like, it's just me. And then we cut back to the guy who was dreaming before. And he says that he's came to find Animal Man. He's in San Francisco. He's on the West Coast because he's looking for Animal Man. And he refers to the dream. He talks about the universe as a mirror. And he's looking in the mirror as he says this to himself. And he's like, was that the dream? And he sort of talks about almost. He says like he's tempted to touch the mirror, but then he decides not to, because he might fall through. And it's all just like very kind of like the narration's very philosophical. He's like a character who's like constantly quite. Joey's making me think of bizarrely. He's making me think a little bit of Earl, I think his name is, from the final episode of Firefly, An Object in Space. If you remember that character. The one who walks around and goes, like, you know, if I'm not in a room, is it still a room? Like he just has like all these weird little philosophical lines as he's like going through the ship. It's kind of that vibe that I'm getting from, like just these weird philosophical thoughts he has about the reality of the world and stuff like that. But with Morrison, I suspect that it may actually become very literal at some point. He even queries that maybe he's already fallen through the mirror, which maybe implies that he has actually came through the barrier from another world, possibly the real world, into the comic book world. But Buddy searches the house, doesn't find anyone, so people are calm. But then she sees this other Buddy at the window again. She doesn't really think of him as Buddy necessarily. He's out in the rain. So Buddy runs out, chases after him in the rain, and the end of the issue is that he jumps. He uses his animal powers to jump over the fence. He gets to him. He's standing over by the tree again. He's in silhouette. He gets to him, and we don't see him clearly. He's still just kind of like a rainy silhouette. But Buddy is like, you know, listen, what do you want? Just tell me. But then he reacts very harshly. He says, "I know you. When I was 10, my God, I saw you." And then the character disappears into the rain, like almost like he has a ghost or an apparition where he just kind of like fades away and he's gone. But Buddy says, "I know you," which is an interesting thing to say. If my suspicion is that this is Buddy from the future, that's a very interesting reaction. But does it also imply that this Buddy from the future actually went too far back at first and appeared to like very young Buddy when he was 10 years old? So he's like remembering, maybe it's like something he's forgotten, and it's not until he's seen him now again he's like, oh shit, I had this creepy moment when I was 10 where I saw you. It may be doing that. Like, this is the best I've got right now with this first issue of this arc. But perhaps more interestingly, he walks slowly back in the rain to the house, and when Ellen asks him what happened, he just says nothing. I don't know. But the numbers 9 and 27 sort of form on the door in the rain. And that's the end. So very ominous. So Buddy like clearly is spooked by this character and has some, at least recognizes seeing him from once in his life before. That's interesting. Honestly, all the spooky stuff is just kind of fun, like the Ouija board intercutting with Ellen having these weird like ghostly moments. The opening with Maxine, I think all of that is really good little horror stuff, which is not something I necessarily expect from an Animal Man issue, but like I'm happy to take it, especially if it's well done. The weird philosophical character who's worried that he may have already traveled through his dream. I mean, I don't know how to take that yet. I kind of need to see what Morrison's got up their sleeve before I can properly assess that. But it was an interesting issue, and I can't deny that this comic keeps me on my toes. Just when I think it's settled into like a groove of this is what the book is, it's like, no, more weird stuff's happening. But hey, I'm a fan of David Lynch, who's better than Steven Spielberg, so I like weird stuff, and so I like this. It's good. I'll manage to 14. I'm giving this a solid 8.5 out of 10. Very, very good. So there you go. Another Patreon book though. Connor's going to talk about Harley Quinn issue 9. This is catch up, right? This was like from last month.
Yes, this is last month's one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because this is obviously last week I did a different Patreon book, but this came out on a week where I wasn't here because Harley Quinn tends to come out at the end of the month. I think it's a week 4 book usually, which means if I'm not there that week, then it goes into catch up immediately. But yeah, this is it's still Stephanie Phillips and Riley Rosmo on art. And it's still a Fear State tie-in. This is one of those books that was part of like the 3 or 4 books that week that came out after Fear State ended, even though there was tie-in still afterwards. It was weird, and it's not very good. even that aside, even the quality of this book aside, I still dislike that from an editorial publishing standpoint of putting out your tie-ins after the event's finished. It just felt weird to me the whole time. I think I mentioned on other books, but I still dislike it. But yeah, it's very much split into 2 parts mostly, and then there's a little intro, couple of pages of Harley or Harlene's first meeting with the Joker, because we haven't seen that enough times apparently. Because that's one of those scenes that I'm getting sick of. It's like seeing the pearls with the Waynes. I'm sick of it. I'm done. I've seen this so many times already.
It also doesn't help that we just had a fantastic like full version of this with Harleen like last year.
It was like 2 or 3 years ago now. I think I'm pretty sure at this point.
Yeah, it wasn't 3 years ago.
No, it was 2. Because I know I got the collection from my brother last time he was here, and that was before COVID. So
was it? Was it that long ago?
I believe so. I believe, or maybe I got him the first issue and I sent him the collection. But I remember giving it to him before he got on the plane.
Okay.
So that was 2019. It was right before.
Yeah, it was a little while ago now. So there's been space between it, yet still. I mean, the trade released February 2020.
Okay, so that's when I sent him that.
So 2 years ago for the issues then. So yeah.
Yeah.
Not 3. It's not 3 years. I'm not that crazy.
Sure, fine, but a while ago. But yeah, I'm sick of seeing that. It adds nothing here. There is no new take on it. There's nothing. It's just there because it can. Fill up a few pages, I guess. But the 2 threads, the first one I'll cover is it's very straightforward, because this is just getting itself in place for the Fear State stuff mostly. It's Harley and she's rescued Ivy. They're in. It was with Catwoman and the others. They were fighting the keepsake knockoff villain squad that they had, and it's just the 2 of them running away and being like, right, we need to get back to Gotham and help and do Fear State stuff. They steal a '68 Mustang, and Harley's in love with it because it's the one from the movie, and she's like, yay, great. They go in the car and they have a fight with a knockoff Firefly who comes and chases them. I'm not even going to try and pretend that I remember the names of these. And is this knockoff Firefly or is this actually Keepsake? I can't remember, because this is the problem when they all have just knockoff themes. The whole league kind of blends together. I think this one's actually Keepsake, but he comes and chases them, and they have a fight with him, and they win. Obviously, I think they kind of hit the jetpack and send the jetpack goes flying, and he crashes down into the ground, and that does it. There's a horrible sequence of art here, in that it's so bad that it knows it's bad. And by that, I mean it has to have arrows to direct me through the page, because it knows without those arrows, I would read it in the wrong order. And if you're at a point where you need arrows to tell me where to go, and it's not just one arrow, it's like 4 or 5, you're doing something wrong. Your art is not good enough at that point. And that's not even a subjective, like taste of the art or not. I think that's just a matter of sequencing and flow, that if your art is not clear enough that I know where to read without you telling me explicitly, then you're not good enough. Sorry, it's just not. But yeah, it gets to the end. Harley and Ivy have a little moment. It's kind of a precursor to. It doesn't have the big kiss that it had in Batman, but it's like just like a moment like that is kind of like the full page. Just the 2 of them together is the ending. Yeah, I mean it's fine. Again, it's just setting up where we were in Fear State. It's this issue. is doing nothing for itself really in terms of the Harley plot. The other plot where it is actually advancing things, I think technically for this book, is the Kevin plot. It ended last issue with him kind of deciding that he was going to be the hero and go into the burning building and rescue people. And by the burning building, it's the safe headquarters, which is strange, kind of his building. So he's rescuing the doctors, and there's a moment where he gets to the doctor who kidnapped him, who's behind. He gets almost everyone else out, but they're like, oh, you've got to go. There's, the building's coming down, but there's one more doctor stuck in behind a door and locked in, and it's the one who, kidnapped him. Who was the one who was particularly cruel to him in the earlier issues, and he has this big moral dilemma as to whether or not he should save him or not, which is visualized as two Harley Quinns doing the angel and devil on the shoulder. It's a big double page with them kind of arguing back and forth as to whether or not he should save it, and it ends up with them doing like the little like cat fight, that you see a lot with them slapping hands at each other and stuff, and it's fine. Of course, it ends with him being the hero and saving the day, and yeah, that's about it. Rosmo art be Rosmo art. It's not good.
Mm-hmm.
It's a 3.
All right. There you go. Well, this is the part of the show where we pick our favorite stuff of the week, favorite panel / moment, favorite cover, favorite art, and top 5 books of the week, which is Connor's cute to leave, apparently. Oh god. Oh, is he going to like be silly and hurt himself, or?
I'll be falls. He falls and breaks the other arm.
What's he even doing? He's doing like some sort of incantation. He's doing some of that ginger voodoo magic or something. I'm like, what's he doing? Oh, and let's watch the headphones. Damn it. Oh, no. Okay. There you go. Yes, alright. Matt, what's your panel / moment of the week?
It's gonna be the Lex Luthor reveal from Batman.
Sure. Yeah, that's good.
Yep, really good.
Connor? I don't think Connor can hear me yet. He's changed his headphones around, seemingly. Maybe his other headphones died. This is riveting stuff, folks. I guess I'll give mine. So my panel / moment.
Look, could you not see I was swapping headphones over?
Yeah, we saw.
Yes, we were watching you intently to see if you hurt yourself.
Not really, but clearly I couldn't hear you.
Yeah.
You could have just jumped in and given yours the whole time instead of going, oh, well, we'll wait and see.
It's funnier to make fun of you, to be honest. But you're now. Okay, what's yours? Go on.
Which category are we on?
Panel / moment.
Panel / moment. Okay. I'll probably go with... I'll go from the Superman Son of Kal-El, with the pulling the bear gale. It made me laugh.
I figured that would be yours.
Yeah.
It's a good name for a bear.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a few things I could pick this week. Some great moments in Swamp Thing. The take the L is good. The It Wasn't Me when the L gets hit with the explosion. Lots of good art moments in Batman. Yeah, there's a lot to choose from potentially. I think I'll probably go. I'll probably go with the It Wasn't Me. That's probably the thing that made me laugh the most this week, and I think that stuck out to me because sometimes Taylor's just really good at making the characters feel fun, and so that's what I got from that. So I think that's what I'll go with. All right, so cover of the week. I'll jump in. I've got 3 on the short list here, and bizarrely they're all regular covers. None of them are variants. But the regular Batman cover is fantastic. The regular World of Krypton cover I think is very nice. I like how sort of like 30s inspired pulpy the costumes are for Jor-El and Lara. And then you get Arkham City's regular cover, and like every main cover that's had has been a contender, if not the winner of my cover of the week, because they've all been wonderful and horror-esque. I am tempted to go with Batman because it is such a great cover, but I think I have to give it to Arkham City again. It's just so spooky and atmospheric, and the vibe it's going for is so different from every other book that it sticks out as very unique. So that's my pick. Connor.
Also got 3 in contention, 2 of which are regular covers. One is the Arkham City one.
Mm-hmm.
The other regular cover would be the Dark Knights of Steel. I really like that style of cover. And the variant I do really like is the 1-star Squadron variant, which is just Red Tornado looking all lonely in the rain and the reflection. And actually, it's real good.
Matt?
Arkham City. You guys mentioned everything else. I do like both Superman annual covers, but I think they're more good for a chuckle than like good. But that Arkham City one is a proper, with Grundy coming up out of the swamp, head all cocked sideways. Super creepy.
Yeah, there was other good covers for sure, but like those were the 3 for me that really stuck out and caught my eye. So yeah, all right, best art of the week then. Connor, you can go first.
Oh God. I mean, I'm probably going to give it to Arkham City. I think Dani does a great job, but a lot of good art this week for me.
Yeah. Matt.
So Perkins, shout out for Swamp Thing, and the team on Batman. I couldn't tell which pages were Jan in.
I think it switched when we moved to the other country at the end.
Yeah. But it pairs really well with the Molina stuff at the beginning too. So, but there's no definitive line. But I'm gonna give it to Dark Knights of Steel. Putri's art is really, really, really good.
Yeah, I think City's great. I think I have to probably give it to Swamp Thing though. I think Perkins takes it for me this week. Not that I didn't love the art on Batman or Dark Knights of Steel or whatever, but like that's the one that stuck out the most.
It says a lot that for me, I'm pretty sure the Superman annual was far and away the weakest art of the week. And I know you guys have Krypton. I know, but I like that a lot. But
I don't want to be cruel and give it a worst art award every week because I feel like we're picking on someone. But
no, I almost wanted to give that best art of the week just to see your faces, to be honest. But
it's your vote, man. You do what you want.
But it doesn't beat out Arkham City or. To be honest, it probably would have been my 3rd choice overall, but would have been disingenuous. I'd have been doing it just for the reaction. I have more integrity than that.
What you doing? All right, Matt, what's your top 5 books of the week?
All right, so number 1 is the Superman annual. Number 2 is I can't remember which grades. I'll go number 2, Dark Knights of Steel. Number 3, Batman. Number 4, Swamp Thing. Number 5, Arkham City.
All right, Connor.
Number 1, Dark Knights of Steel. 2, Superman Annual. 3, Swamp Thing. 4, Arkham City. 5, 1-star Squadron.
Okay. For me, number 1 is Swamp Thing. Number 2 is Batman. Number 3, Superman, Son of Kal-El. Number 4, Arkham City. Number 5, Dark Knights of Steel. There you go. And World of Krypton is
down.
I mean, it's still, I think, my lowest rated book this week.
Yeah.
I mean, I still give it like a 6.5. I've had significantly worse.
Oh, that was only a book I didn't like this week. So I mean, I had a good week. Me hating one book is not a bad week necessarily. So it ain't too bad. I will give you what's coming out next week. Let's see what's hitting us. Release day being the 15th of our fine Christmas month of December. We have Wonder Woman 782, The Joker issue 10, Batman Urban Legends issue 10, Robin and Batman issue 2, Wonder Girl issue 6. Whoa, that's super quick. After all the delays of the previous issues, issue 6 is coming out quick fire.
What happens when you get another artist on it?
It wasn't the art that was delaying it though, it was the paper shortage.
Oh, that's true. But I noticed it's another fill-in. I say fill-in. It's not Joel Jones doing the art. It's Leila Del Duca who did, I think, some Future State issues that she did. Not of Wonder Girl, though, obviously. I think it was the Wonder Girl stuff with the Superman book. Yeah.
Well, continuing the list, Batman the Imposter issue 3. Really looking forward to that.
Mm-hmm.
Teen Titans Academy issue 9. I Am Batman issue 4. Batgirls issue 1, so we got another new number 1 next week of note. Future State Gotham issue 8, Harley Quinn the animated series, the Eat Bang Kill Tour issue 4, Titans United issue 4. There's a lot of weird minis that we're not reading right now. Batman: The Adventure Continues season 2 issue 7. Black Manta issue 4. Pennyworth issue 5. Batman and Scooby-Doo Mysteries issue 9. And then 'Tis the Season to Be Freezing issue 1. So that's their big villain or big anthology issue for Christmas. So definitely a quieter. I mean, there's a lot of books coming out, but in terms of what we actually read, much quieter week overall.
Yeah, I think it's like 7 or 8 books, a couple of which are hefty, but.
Oh man, if someone wants to get an extra Patreon and make Pete read "Tis the Season to Be Freezing,"
oh, it's ineligible. It's too long.
Dang. Join us as Harley Quinn and Blue Snowman, Ice Out, Hawkman, Batman fights the Cold Hearted Mr. Freeze, the JLQ don't stand a snowball's chance against Minister Blizzard, and the Flash and Superman team up to chill out Captain Cold.
Wait, it's got Minister Blizzard in it. Pete should read it anyway.
Yeah,
that's the second best thing he could want in an issue after Cold Sun.
It is a relatively quiet week. Maybe I'll take the plunge, but as a general rule for the patron, making me or Connor read a book list, if it's typically an annual sized is the biggest we'll go on.
Yeah, I know.
to stop people saying, hey, there's like an original graphic novel that's 250 pages.
Yeah, no, I understand that, but I'm just saying, Minister Blizzard. Come on now.
Yes. So yes, that's next week for DC Comics. That will lead me to thank our Patreon producers for the month. So thank you to Tyler Hess, Cindy Palacios, David Sharp, Bordenau, Christopher Moy, and David Brown. They are Patreon producers for the month of December. You can, of course, be a Patreon producer at one of the higher tiers on Patreon, $20 and up. But you can support us for as little as $1 and keep all the content coming and support the show. The $5 tier in particular, you get early access to the show by a day. You get it whenever it's ready, late on a Saturday, versus the time it goes out on a Sunday. So if that's of interest, go and have a look and see if you want to support everything we do. And it also supports all the other content that's made for Mail Fuzz TV and Mail Fuzz movies, such as the horror podcast, Screams After Midnight, science fiction podcast, the Atomic Cinema Experiment, bunch of TV reviews, all that stuff. So go and have a look at all that if you're intrigued. You can also support everything we do for free by simply hitting the like button and subscribing, dinging the bell for notifications on YouTube. The audio version, if you listen to it on iTunes, give us a 5-star review and just a 5-star review. There's nothing else. But it's really straightforward on the audio version. So go do that. And get us on Twitter at DC Comics Podcast. You can get updates there. You can ask us questions, whatever. That's how you stay in touch. So very good. That is that. That is it. That's the show, and that is the plugging for all the things. It is worth mentioning. We haven't quite decided what we're doing yet, but Christmas Day does fall on the day we normally record this year, which is a first. So we don't know what we're doing exactly yet, recording wise, that week. But there's a very good chance that the podcast will be later than usual for the week that it falls on Christmas. I mean, there's a small chance we could record it earlier, but I would not count on it because it's not like we're really gearing. It's like we want to do it in Christmas Eve either, right?
And also, if I recall, it's quite a hefty week of DC books. They did not take it light.
It's a reasonably heavy week, yes. So do not be surprised if an episode or two at the end of the month is late, but nothing to worry about. Just the Christmas season doing its thing. So. Yeah, I guess that's the show. That's episode 283 in the can. Thank you for joining us. We always appreciate it. Keep reading DC Comics, and remember to never get lost in the Speed Force.